You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history.
We're trotting out and peddling people's racist, sexist, bigoted stereotypes.
And their colleagues have distorted the facts.
Take the worst I say and turn them to a game. Take the best I say and put them on display.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently you're afraid of my words.
Hunter Biden is not above the law. We want to send him to the DOJ, and we want to trust the DOJ to do their job.
I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, that I can go campaign on and say we did.
The bill, as I say, codifies one definition of anti-Semitism. A definition that the author says shouldn't be codified.
RICO is not a crime.
They want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the shitter to me.
Leadership of the plans to get them back into chambers. That would have been call number 3 with Speaker Pelosi.
She didn't have one call, you didn't have 2 calls, you had 3 calls. So Speaker Pelosi's comments that she didn't speak to are inaccurate.
That is correct, sir.
Welcome to the Off Label Podcast, your daily dose of sanity in an insane world. Ladies and gentlemen, looks like Trump, Truth, I don't even know what they call it, but Trump dropped something on Truth Social about the Clinton body count, and that conversation is starting to spark back up again. This is going to be a fun one. And then we also got a little bit of an update here. It looks like RFK banning the dyes has really gone through. And the timetable has been set for that. We'll go through those. Yeah, I'm gonna say queerly. We'll go through those quickly. But it's been a slow. Yeah, I know it's been a very, very slow news day. And as I was looking around, we got to check out this hearing today, because apparently Democrats are ghosting the Senate hearing about Biden's mental health. So we'll go ahead and watch as much as we can of that tonight with just mainly Republicans. I don't think it's going to be a cry fest. But yeah, let's have some fun tonight. Oh, I got to get that set up.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you can get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing. Won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. I'll make it look like I'm losing. Won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.
Stop recording me, though.
Make my milkshake and chill out.
I'm not making nothing.
You're not making nothing? Dude, you heard how she talked to me? Alright.
Inside? I'm not making nothing. You want to stand here? Stand here. We're not serving you.
I'll go back there myself and make a damn milkshake, mother.
Go over here. I swear to God, shit out of you.
Dude, get the hell out of here.
Get the fuck out of here, I said.
Dude,
make me, Mr. Sir.
Roll that back for just a second. Roll that back just a second. Make me Mr. Sir.
Mr. Sir.
That's what the dude said.
Well, it's these dumb kids who go around trying to make content who just bought that's that Jack Doherty kid.
Right.
Who's rich for no reason. And quote unquote influencer for no fucking reason.
If she were to snap, I'd have been behind her as 100%.
Yeah.
Just like the manager did. Just you got him out nicely and everything like that. But nah, I can't stand that kind of shit. Jennifer with a $10 dono. Alex Padilla is an anchor baby. Please spread the word. Yes, he is an anchor baby.
That's not. Some of these kids need to just be punched in the face.
He admitted he was an anchor baby. Deluxe Knight with a 5. B-Job secure. You are right. It is always calm before the storm. I am a little concerned for the 4th of July. Ooh. That's coming up.
Yeah, it is.
But let's go ahead.
But
I need to flip this
what
back
is up,
real quick.
Everybody? What up?
We
got
screen.
We got Ken Krause. We got Carolyn. We got Louie. We got Jennifer O'Connell. We got Muffin Rando. We got Rhoda on the YouTube side. And on the Rumble side, we got Jennifer, Sober Vitek, Amanda. Let's see who else. We got Be the One. We got Louie on that side. Happy Juneteenth, everybody.
Oh, God damn it. Yeah, I just accidentally closed that video I just had, so you guys are going to have to give me a second.
Spend it the way you're supposed to spend it. Lazy. Doing nothing on the couch. Happy Juneteenth. Are you supposed to get like a Christmas tree, like a Juneteenth tree?
God damn. Where was
Do
it?
they have one? Which
What?
one are you looking? That's why you got to throw these things in the Telegram, so that way you can just grab it real easily.
I know. I found it like right before the show though, and I never did transfer it over. Trump posted. Okay, hold on.
You go to my screen while you find that.
Go ahead. There we go.
Yeah, my screen.
Yeah, dude. Need to unmute. Go ahead. The music could get us a dig. But look at that. AI is getting good. Oh my God. What the fuck? Occupy Beverly Hills.
Occupy Beverly Hills. Send more weapons.
Hey, pause real quick though. At least AI is able to form words now though. You see that?
Yeah.
It's not just gibberish like it used to be.
No.
Dude.
This is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. Once they can get it to where it doesn't look like a, because it looks like a video game now. Right now it looks like a,
it looks like a
Grand
badass
Theft
video
Auto
game.
Yeah, it looks like Grand Theft Auto 6. But
well, I mean, it is kind of.
Yeah. I like how they said send more weapons as he's on a pile of weapons. Molinari with it.
What the fuck, man?
Rocket
Right,
Man.
now good. Job secure. I need to sit down and edit the videos and put them all together so I can share the 4 dumbasses that FA and pulled up on my house Monday. Then FO for me in my driveway. Oh shit.
Jesus.
Okay. What? All right.
You go to your screen.
Ladies and gentlemen, y'all need to check this out real quick. Y'all are going to hear about this very, very soon. If you haven't already, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social the video Hillary Clinton does not want you to see.
Jr.
Check this shit out.
Are you on your screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Making sure.
He was declared the front runner for the New York Senate seat back in 1999. Days later, his plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, and his rival, Hillary Clinton, was elected senator. Mary Mahoney was a Clinton White House intern. She knew enough of the inner workings of Bill's sexual advancements to be a star witness during the Clinton impeachment trials. She was brutally executed at a Starbucks she was managing in 1997. In 1993, White House counsel Vince Foster was found dead in Fort Marcy Park near D.C. He supposedly killed himself, and among a lengthy
Hillary violently disagreed with Foster and constantly ridiculed him.
list of potential foul
The alleged suicide note was destroyed with no fingerprints.
play, the bullet was never found.
Then there's James McDougal, a key witness for White House prosecutors. He was serving his 3-year sentence for bank fraud at the Fort Worth Federal Medical Center in Texas. And just before he was to give a testimony before the grand jury,
Prior to testifying, reporters were called to a standoff in Waco that went away. After cardiac arrest, he was driven to an area hospital.
McDougal suffered a
To the
heart attack
closest-
in solitary confinement.
Whatever.
In 2015, Walter Scheib, a White House chef hired under Bill Clinton, joined the list. His body was found at the bottom of a river, nearly 2 miles from the base of the trail he was reportedly hiking. An autopsy determined that Scheib's death was accidental drowning, but he might have known too much. 27-year-old Democratic National Committee staffer Seth Rich was shot and killed in D.C.
What?
No, Seth Rich.
Yeah.
this year. There
I remember
is
that one.
speculation that he was the source of the controversial leaked emails allegedly sent by DNC staffers, and that he may have been murdered in retaliation. Then Sean Lucas, the lead attorney in a fraud case against the DNC, was found lying on the bathroom floor by his girlfriend when she returned home on August 2nd. His death was reported classified, pending the results of an autopsy.
You think we gonna get something out of this? You think we gonna get something related to this? Davey. Hear me?
Well, I was looking for the video of Hillary Clinton when they were talking about that Bill sexually assaulted a woman, and Hillary was laughing about it.
It'd be
You remember that?
It'd be better to find it on X.
I don't know why all of a sudden is this coming back up.
That's why I'm asking about it. Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ. Wait a minute. Go back up. What did that say?
Never forget Hillary Clinton laughed like a maniac when she found out Gaddafi was sodomized and murdered by terrorists.
I never heard this.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died. Yes, we came.
I mean, that wasn't like a maniacal laugh, but I mean, what's the difference in
That was it. That's it right there.
Oh, this one? Yeah.
Yep.
Hold on. Yet again, here's Hillary laughing about Kelly Shelton, rapist, fooling a lie detector test. I told you exactly how the mainstream media would smear her. All right?
Clinton on the same tape laughing about her client passing a polygraph.
Took a lie detector test. I had to take a polygraph, which he passed, which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs. But you know what was sad about it was that the prosecutors had evidence.
Clinton on the same tape laughing about her client passing a polygraph.
One more.
Took a lie detector test.
He took a lie detector test.
I had to take a polygraph,
I had him take a polygraph,
which he passed.
which he passed.
Forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs.
Huh.
Which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs. And then she laughs.
Yeah. But it kind of does make me wonder, though. It does make me wonder, are we going to see something from this? I mean, there'd be... Just because he's like, yeah, I believe this too. No, I don't believe that. Because there's nothing to it. There's no words. He said nothing. Just posted the video.
I just once it just if anything happens, it's going to be just like Biden. She's too old to stand trial, and she's an old woman.
No,
and
she's
there's
still
no
out
need.
there running around right now having fucking speeches and shit. They cannot pull that. But Lex Knight, thank you for the 10. I truly believe it did not actually have anything to do with my gooseneck truck flags. The garage was open and they were looking for an opportunity. We were all in the yard and garage though. Oh shit. Oh, so they just tried to run up in his house or something. Okay.
Jesus.
Oh. Okay. But I don't know, man. If we start, if Cash Patel and Dan Bongino start speaking up about this, or he's questioned about this, and they start talking, I know full well we're gonna get something. Maybe what? Confirmation of shit we already knew. But at least it's confirmation of shit we already knew.
But that's the thing. It's like they'll just go, yeah, we knew this. This came out years ago.
Right.
You know, it's just like it's stupid. It's stupid to bring it back up because it's a slow news day. Nothing else to do, nothing else to say. You know, you gave Iran 2 weeks to come to make peace, and that's it. Like there's nothing.
Hillary
so
Clinton
he's just
is
like
talking again, though.
Is she?
Latest from Hillary Clinton. Let's see.
I go to top.
Okay, that wasn't. Yeah. That was Hillary Clinton showed yesterday. Hey, Richard Dawkins, you can tell me who was the last guy that promoted the idea of eliminating humans with birth defects?
Huh?
What the? How the fuck did we get here? Look, it
Richard
says yes.
Dawkins wants people with Down syndrome dead?
Yeah, yes, what Hillary Clinton showed yesterday, a speech made of left-wing talking points. And then we're here. How? What? I don't understand. Speech in Burma. Hillary Clinton. Oh, this is way back in the day.
You spelled speech with 2 P's.
Oh.
Spitch.
The latest. She spoke somewhere not too long ago. Yeah, Hillary Clinton sided with Russians on sanction as Bill made 500 grand on Moscow speech. There we go. Hold up.
Like, go back up to see the date. Yeah, because go see the date. Yeah, that's just 2017. Yeah.
What the fuck was the last? What was she
Go to
on
top.
last time?
Go to top instead of latest.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Good point. April 17th. No, but she had a speech not too long ago. Where was it? But this one?
Right.
War criminals, the people of Libya.
Yeah.
The people of
Yeah, this was it. This is not too long ago. She's been everywhere speaking, dude. And then this dude just had enough of this shit.
Thank you very much. That's my name. That's right.
War criminals. The people of Libya, the people of Iraq, the people of Syria, the people of Yemen, the people of Palestine, as well as the people of America will never forget.
Thank you very much.
Hillary, Diane, Rodham, Clinton. Oh, so you dropped Diane from your name. Why? But
she's got fucking 14 names. What is she, Puerto Rican?
Hey, I got 4. Fuck you. Let's see.
So
This is
why?
May 17th in Ohio. She was coughing, apparently.
That was a while ago. That was when she was running against what's his face the first time.
Yeah, that's old as fuck. That's from 2024, but she's going around college campuses and things like this now. I can't believe nobody's gotten this shit. Where the fuck that? Oh yeah, yeah, this one, May 8th. It was the civil life liberties thing.
Totally.
Jennifer with the dono. The timing is to prevent her 2028 presidential run, in my opinion.
Oh god damn it. Oh god damn it.
It's all that plus, plus, plus. Because what has been unleashed on social media is
that was a
totally
while back too. No, that was not it. She did another.
Deluxe with the dono. If my IWI TS12 had been in the garage with me, they would have met that rather than the daily carry from my truck. If you don't know what an IWI TS12 is, it's a fun wormhole. Let's find out. IWI.
Where the fuck was it? I showed that before. There was a clip that I had before for members only. You weren't even here for. Now I can't even find it again.
Is that a trans gun? Jesus Christmas, Deluxe.
Wait, it does what?
We can show this.
No.
On Rumble.
Whoa.
Look at that thing. Deluxe has one of those.
All right, let's go.
Do you think we could put it on YouTube?
I mean, it's already on, but he ain't shooting nobody. But yeah, I remember playing that clip before. But anyway, I don't know, dude. I think Jennifer could be right. Jennifer could be right. But I don't know. I think we may actually get some shit. Maybe even with the servers.
I want one now. It's got three holders. You just fucking switch the bottom. Look at that. You just turn it.
Right.
Oh, I want one so badly now.
God damn it. Can't remember that fucking clip now. But anyway, let's go to this right here before we hit the hearing. Apparently, RFK wasn't really bullshitting around when he said he was banning artificial food dyes. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen.
Food brands are making changes to their products as the Trump administration pushes to make America healthy again. So take a look. We start with General Mills. They're removing artificial food dyes from U.S. cereals and the foods that they send to our schools, K through 12 schools. That's going to happen by next summer. This is going to happen by the end of 2027. They're removing all artificial dyes completely by the end, like I said, it's 2027. They make Trick cereal.
It's removed from the kids' schools by the summer of 2026. Everywhere across the country, it's being removed by 2027.
Right.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cheerios, Rice Chex, the things that are probably in your pantry. Also, Kraft and Heinz, they're saying goodbye to the artificial dyes by the end of 2027. Includes Jell-O, Capri Suns, Kool-Aid, and Crystal Light. Then the In-N-Out Burger, they removed artificial dyes from strawberry shakes and pink lemonade, and they replaced it with the beet juice and turmeric instead.
Hey.
That's not bad.
Hey. At least you
That's
get
not-
actual real shit, you know?
Yeah.
Whether it be concentrate or whatever, at least there's still some benefit to it. All right.
Their focus is on the red 40 and the yellow 5. Also, the
Right.
high fructose corn syrup, they're
Yep.
replacing that with natural sugar. Then let's take Steak and Shake. Instead, they're using the beef tallow fat. We've heard RFK Jr. talk a lot about this. Instead of the vegetable oils to make their French fries, their onion rings, and their chicken tenders. And the tallow fat, it's still unsaturated, but it is a lot healthier than the heavily processed seed oils. Then all the spices in your cabinets. McCormick, many of those in my cabinet are made by this brand. Working to remove artificial food dyes and sodiums. Their focus is on the red dye number 3, which has been linked to cancer concerns.
I mean, listen, it's not like all these like fast food chains aren't expensive as it is. Because remember when fast food used to be fast food, so you could just go there and get something quick to eat that's
Right.
inexpensive.
Right.
Now it's as much as going to a restaurant.
Hey, look,
Burger.
I'm gonna miss it myself because those things, you know, like you pour yourself some cereal, like some Apple Jacks or something. You got green and you got orange. They're bright as shit. Now I'm gonna pour it out and it's gonna look like dog shit.
But you're not gonna die.
No, you're right.
I mean,
but it's gonna look like dog shit. Let's
if you look at the Fanta in England compared to the Fanta here, I've seen some videos of people like, why is it so orange here?
Right.
Like over there, it's like a light orange. It looks like Tang.
Right.
Over there.
Yeah.
But over here, it's that deep orange. It's because of all the fucking dude. I can't believe, like, you look at bread. Like, I look at the ingredients in the bread from Walmart, and there's like 17 things. It's like, isn't bread supposed to be like 4 things?
But milk, flour, eggs, and sugar.
Yeast.
Oh, yeast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I add a little bit of sugar to make it a little sweeter, but yeah.
I don't think you add milk to bread. I think it's just like yeast. You know what I saw? Somebody make ice cream bread.
Yeah. To make the flour or to make the dough. I use milk instead of water.
I saw somebody make ice cream bread. They took a pint of ice cream. They put what's that stuff that ferments it or whatever, the rye that. What do you put? What are the ingredients in bread?
Well, if you want to put it with yours, it's water, flour, eggs, and yeast.
Yeah, yeast. I guess they just put yeast and a pint of ice cream. You put it in the oven for like 45 minutes. You pull it out, and it's ice cream bread. It's supposed to be fucking delicious. I've seen multiple videos on it.
Don't eat this. It'll kill
Why?
you. It'll kill you. Why?
Why? It's ice cream.
Every time you eat something, you wind up dying.
I'm eating it. Well, you know, listen, I got to buy the ice cream fresh. I can't buy the ice cream I can't buy the ice cream and leave it for 3 years and then go, let me try it.
I mean, I'm all for this artificial food dye thing. I know it's going to make food look like dog shit, but hey, you know, at least we're not poisoning ourselves with shit just to make it flashy for the kids.
It just won't be as colorful. I mean, listen.
Right.
I mean, yeah, like that's what they make it. They make it colorful so that way it's more attractive to children. Remember Joe Camel? Remember they took away Joe Camel because they said that Joe Camel was getting kids to smoke cigarettes.
Jesus Christ. Okay, it's Israeli weapons industry 15+1. You got 2 3/4 inch shells or 12.13 inch shells. or 12 plus one in the chamber, 3-inch shells designed with ambidextrous possibilities in mind. 5 years ago, the price tag was $15,000 to $2,000.
Oof.
I mean, that's still fucking worth it. Today it's going to be like $7,000. But yeah. Anyway, let's say hi to everybody one more time here. We got Carolyn Hall with us, Wes Downer, Q Essence, Jennifer O'Connell. I like shouting out people that come in later on. Rhoda, Boom Shakalaka's with us, Ken Krause, Muffin's in the house with us, Jennifer O'Connell, Wes, Jonathan there. Let's see, who else do we have? Anybody else? RP Games is here with us.
Hey, Deluxe, I'm on the IWI website, and right now it's saying MSRP is $13.99. So you might still be able to get it for $15.16.
Hold on. Go to your screen. What does that show it? No, not at today's prices with everything that you actually have to.
This is the IWI website, and this says the MSRP is $13.99.
Yes, but once it comes to you, you're going to pay a lot of fucking money with the licensing and the checks and everything that has to go through, plus a lot of fees and everything to buy a weapon. Everything that you buy in the store, if you look at MSRP, you're going to be like, holy shit, they're charging like $3,000 for something that's $1,700. Yeah, they're going to make a profit and everything, but a lot of that is the fucking taxes and the stamps and the approval for everything to be sold.
I'm saying the most it'll be is probably $2,000. I'm gonna go tomorrow. I'm gonna go tomorrow to the local.
Someone upwards of 3, but yeah, you're gonna see some people try to price gouge because that's badass. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I switched to sourdough a few years back because the yeast and gluten get broken down differently. It stopped my dragging ass after lunch. Nappy time.
Dude, that's why when I used to work outside, I hated taking a lunch. Because I just right after lunch I just wanted to take a nap. I just wanted to go to sleep.
Well, that's because you slowed the fuck down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to keep going.
But let's go ahead and get into this. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, in this Senate hearing, I'm just going to show you.
RP Jack says you can find them for close to MSRP right now. It's a buyer's market for guns right now.
There we go. Look at this. Look at that, Davey. Look at the Democrat side.
So many people there.
Look, you saw Dick Durbin pop the fuck up. Where is he now? You had one fucking person here to speak. This is going to be... It's either going to be grandstanding like a lot of Senate fucking shit is, or we're going to hear some real shit.
Chuck Grassley.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to this judiciary hearing. We have multiple member statements
is
today,
good.
so
Okay.
without objection, I'll introduce my longer statement into the hearing record. Today's hearing is about competency, corruption, and cover-up within the Biden
We're going to be on
administration.
YouTube for the rest of the night,
Simply
too.
put,
We ain't cutting.
The last administration was rudderless. From one crisis to another, the Biden administration failed and faltered. The partisan media did their best to cover up those failures. Having discussed these issues with my colleagues, Senator Cornyn and Schmidt, who requested to lead this hearing, all of us agreed that this committee must discuss this important matter. An important part of
Jonah,
this discussion
the color of
involves
Tricks and Fruit
the
Loops
last
actually did change.
administration's
When I was a kid, it
weaponization
changed.
of law enforcement against Trump and his associates, which was done to try and win an election. That too, they
What up, Third Rail?
tried to cover up. Since I became chairman of this committee, my investigative work has exposed how weaponization was done, look at the FBI's Arctic Frost investigation, which ultimately became one of Jack Smith's cases against President Trump.
What up, my nigga?
Based upon records that I've made public, the case's origin was anti-Trump FBI agent Tebow and his merry band of artisans and partisans. The records indicate that the opening of Arctic Frost was an intentionally designed vehicle by which the Biden administration would ultimately prosecute their primary political opponent, President Trump. Then I made emails public.
Hold on. QSN says, I trust Grassley. He wears a pin, a waving flag pin. Those are back, by the way. So you trust him because he wears a waving flag pin? I know that's not what you're saying, but.
The Biden administration's political investigation.
Deluxe night with the dono. OD green sight, quick release shoulder strap, hung under the armpit. Nice. And Jennifer, shut up. It's the chips at the bottom. There's only little tiny chips. Says Davey, I watched you eat a handful of chips. Try one at a time, bro. It's the ones at the bottom. There's no more big ones.
So you just shovel them all in your mouth?
I take a little fucking...
Now you know why you pass that every 5 seconds.
Shut up, Richard.
Into Peter Navarro, Tebow, and his other anti-Trump agent, Walter Giardina, were also involved in that case. Whistleblowers have told me that Special Agent Giardina
Me too.
Openly stated his desire to investigate Trump, even if it meant false predication. Whistleblowers have also told me that Jack Smith's deputy, J.P. Cooney, wanted to open more cases on Trump. He allegedly justified using compulsory process to obtain more information merely based upon partisan news outlets. And guess who was also allegedly involved in those communications? Well, that's the same person, Special Agent Walter Giardina. All of this is more evidence of law enforcement weaponization that would have never been the light of day, but for
Shut up, babe.
whistleblowers. I'll have more to say about this matter later today in another forum. Then we have the Biden FBI's anti-Catholic Richmond memo. That memo used the shoddy research of the radical
Jesus, Wes.
Southern
I think athlete's foot jock itch is yeast too.
Catholics of being
I mean, it
violent
is, though.
extremists. Based on the records that I released the other week, there wasn't just one FBI document that used biased anti-Catholic sources, but over a dozen. And more FBI field officers were involved than we'd been led to believe.
Damon, it's not coming up.
It wasn't
All right,
just
fine.
the Biden and Ray FBI that failed.
Sorry,
to
you can't have chat with us.
Recently, I released records showing that the Biden Health and Human Services also failed to address the backlog of over 65,000 reports expressing concern for unaccompanied children. This included 7,346 reports related to trafficking. 36 cases have been accepted by U.S. attorneys for prosecution, with 11 arrests and 3 convictions so far. The Biden administration had a responsibility to do right by the American people. By any metric, they failed. The question is, what did the president actually know or even understand, and who was actually running the government? But regardless, the buck stops with the president, and President Biden will have to answer to history for what's happened the last 4 years.
He ain't having to answer to shit. He'll be dead soon.
The opportunity to speak to Ranking Member Durbin for his opening remarks, and after that, Senator Cornyn is going to take the chair, and Senator Cornyn and
Happy Juneteenth,
Chairman
Wes.
Schmidt are going to lead the rest of the hearing. Proceed, Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. This committee has oversight responsibility over the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation,
Oh, I got to
and the
pause.
Department of Homeland Security.
My bad.
We have a
There we go.
constitutional duty to hold these agencies accountable with public hearings. By this date in my first year as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, we had already held 2 major oversight hearings with Biden administration agency heads, including one with the FBI Director Wray on domestic terrorism threats. So far this year, the Republican majority in this committee has not held a single oversight hearing, despite numerous critical challenges facing the nation that are under our jurisdiction.
There we
In
go.
the last
Got it.
week alone, several events have demanded this committee's immediate attention. The horrific assassination in Minnesota, the treatment of our colleague Senator Padilla by federal agents in Los Angeles, and President Trump's unprecedented deployment of the U.S. military in Los Angeles.
What?
We should hear without delay from Attorney General Bondi and FBI Director Patel about what they are doing to address the unacceptable political violence in our country, including threats to Article III judges and justices, as well as members of Congress. And we need to hear from the Homeland Security Secretary Noem about the treatment of our colleague, Senator Padilla.
Urban. The threats on the members of Congress. It's mostly your people, though. I'm
What
pretty
about,
sure there's some right wing people, because I would go ahead and say some select words for every single fucking one of you.
What about James Comey, who tweeted 8647?
Right? What about Fagenstein that did that too?
Yeah. What about all those people who tweeted 8647 and then deleted it and was like, I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Fuck you. Shut up. You know exactly what it meant. You piece of shit.
That's why you actually started sharing it. But yes. I have to go deal with this headache before
cool
the food gets here.
seashells.
Take it easy, Wes.
And this administration's mass
Yeah, Rich, why don't you put it on like 1.5?
against immigrants.
Yeah, I
But
got
instead
to.
of exercising this constitutional oversight duty, my Republican colleagues are holding this hearing. Apparently,
You put it on
armchair
125.
diagnosing former President Biden is more important than the issues of grave concern which I have mentioned. To take a few examples of the issues this committee should be addressing, the Trump administration has removed dozens of senior career prosecutors and FBI officials with decades of national
worse
security
with him,
expertise, leaving our nation more vulnerable to terrorism and other national security threats. This should be explained to this committee.
I need
The
to set
Justice
up the
Department has
polls
diverted
and
hundreds of
everything
law
for you
enforcement
guys.
agents away
For
from
this.
combating cartels.
Where should all the old guys? Because all the old guys fucking talk slow.
Mass deportation campaign.
Right.
This should be addressed in an open hearing of this committee.
You gotta make
Justice
Amanda
Department is
mod.
also turning a blind eye to corruption. The administration has gutted
I gotta remember
Department
how
of
to do
Justice's
that.
public
Hold on.
integrity session, which oversees political corruption, just as the president's shameful crypto scheme unfolds. And the administration has removed Department of Justice career ethics officials and shut down the office charged with investigating misconduct by DOJ attorneys. With these internal checks gone and this committee asleep at the wheel, it's no surprise that Attorney General Bondi signed off on President
But he is a
Trump to
fag.
accept
Pass it
the
on.
generous gift of a $400 million luxury airliner, despite the fact that
He
the
dropped
Attorney
to his
General was
knees and then
previously
went to his
a
belly.
registered foreign agent for the Qatari government. We are still waiting for her
What up,
official
Sean?
finding on this gift
By
transfer.
the way, if you're still
And
here.
it's no surprise that Department of Justice official Emil Bove tried to strike a corrupt bargain with New York Mayor Eric Adams, dropping public corruption charges in exchange for the mayor's cooperation with Trump agenda mass deportations. When it comes to these historic, compelling issues, the GOP majority tells America to move along. Nothing to see here. Let's revisit this administration of a previous president in this hearing. Let's revisit a 20-year-old precedent on the use of an auto pen. And I know my Republican colleagues are eager to discuss President Biden's pardons. But why are they ignoring the actual pardon crisis that's taking place right now? President Trump's pay-to-play scheme. Last month, President Trump pardoned Paul Walzak,
I
who
found
pleaded
it.
guilty in 2024 to withholding over $7 million of taxes from his employees' paychecks and failing to pay them to the Internal Revenue Service. What warranted Mr. Walczak's swift pardon by President Trump? His pardon application explicitly cited millions of dollars his mother raised for President Trump's campaigns and other efforts to support the president. But that was not enough. It was 3 weeks after Mr. Walczak's mother attended a $1 million a person Trump fundraiser in April of this year that Mr. Walczak was miraculously receiving his pardon. And now he no longer must pay $4.4 million to the taxpayers of this country. That's one example of the many pardons granted to President Trump's wealthy donors and political supporters. Of course, these pay-to-play pardons are in addition to more.
Davey is too loud versus Rich, and the hearing volume by 3. You want the volume of the hearing to go up a bit, and I'm too low? Is my microphone fucking up on me again? Hold up.
I haven't said a word.
There is a delay. Is that better? In the hearing volume, you want... I mean, that's already at -15, so it's not loud as fuck, but okay. Filters. Limiter set at 15. Let's boost it up a little more. Take it to 12.5.
More than 1,500 January 6 rioters who received blanket pardon from President Trump, including 169 who violently assaulted law enforcement officials. And we're going to make a question of cognitive ability. I think we should consider what happened in Alberta, Canada, just this week, where President Trump was at a press conference with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and said the following: "You all know the great PM of the UK, and we just signed a document." President Trump continued, "We just signed it, so we have our trade agreement with the EU."
Oh yeah, that's all he's doing, Ken.
For 5 years.
Just reading a piece of
President
paper.
Trump made a statement which clearly was wrong. Now I'd like you to see a short video that includes some other examples of cognitive ability.
We go in regular speed with this. Ladies and gentlemen, Trump is senile.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know.
Cut.
The windmills are driving the whales crazy, obviously. I have
Cut.
concepts of a plan. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the... I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnet. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. Right, the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or...
And he was fucking right about that.
Cleaning,
He was fucking right about it.
Injecting bleach? It was never bleach, but yeah.
It was never bleach. It was some kind of disinfectant. But he was right about it. Because I think I forget one of the ingredients in the vaccine was a disinfectant or something like that. But he was also talking about UV rays.
Oh yeah, they kill bacteria.
UV rays
and shit like that.
killing bacteria and stuff like that.
So
and
we're just gonna inject UV fluid and just be pumped full of light, though.
And he ended up being right, because now you could still find those fucking stupid UV cleaners where you put your phone in and whatever it is.
Point taken. Point taken. You are right about that.
Hurricane. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular. Can't understand a word he's saying. Did you just see Maduro? It's unbelievable. Well, I don't know about it. I mean, obviously, I'm not involved.
He wants to know why the proclamation was signed in the dark.
I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it. Other people handled it.
Do any of these statements raise a question of cognitive ability?
No, because they were all fucking cut.
Every single one of them were taken out of fucking context, and some of them were hilarious as hell just because he's a fucking dick.
You be the judge.
Election night with the dono. I'm trying to listen, bro. The monotone of this man. Also watching for the I don't know what that
didn't
emoji is.
Watching for the troll from yesterday. Nah, he ain't coming back through. Dude, you should check out the Discord, Davey. Look at the Discord. Where was it? It was in the links to articles section. This dude popped in. I gave him viewer access because he is a viewer. This motherfucker comes in here, starts demanding to be on our show. And then just like, all right, fine, we'll schedule that. And he's like, fuck that. I'm busy. I'm not coming on some other time. Let me on. No one is watching this shit anyway. That was his last message. Check that shit out, dude. And the links to articles, very top of the server. This shit was fucking hilarious.
Colleagues are truly interested in issues of presidential succession and disability under the 25th Amendment. I would suggest they embark on this constitutional journey with a proposed amendment, not today's political adventure. I yield.
All right, put it back to 1.5.
I want to thank
Hold on.
Chairman Grassley for convening this
Is this
hearing
Thune?
and my colleague
It's over his
Senator
name.
Schmidt from Missouri
Yeah,
for
this is
co-chairing
Thune.
this with me.
You're going to want this on
as
regular
we
speed.
examine the constitutional crisis posed by the cover-up of President Biden's cognitive decline.
No, it's Cornyn.
The U.S. Constitution provides, as we
Let's
all
take
know,
him to
for three co-equal
1.25.
branches. Today, we're concerned about the chief
Look, Durbin
executive
just straight up left.
of the United States. As we know, the chief executive, the head of the executive branch, enforces the laws, appoints high-ranking officials, serves as commander-in-chief of our armed forces.
I'm sorry, that was Grassley
can
that
issue
just left.
pardons, and can veto and advocate for legislation.
No, that was Durbin, was it not? I'm sorry, that was just blatant.
The constitutional crisis posed by the cover-up of President Biden's cognitive decline. The U.S. Constitution
that was Durbin.
provides, as we all know, for
Yeah,
three
that was
co-equal
Durbin.
branches.
Just straight up.
Today, we're
As soon as he
concerned
said
about the chief
cognitive
executive,
decline,
the
he was
president
out.
of the United States. As we know, the chief executive, the head of the executive branch, enforces the laws, appoints high-ranking officials, serves as commander-in-chief of our armed forces, can issue pardons, and can veto and advocate for legislation. But what are we to do when the president is incapable of performing these duties? Last June, the American public saw with their own eyes what many knew to be true, but would not dare to admit publicly. Our sitting commander-in-chief was suffering from severe cognitive decline, as evident by this video, which I will now show.
Oh, another video. Slow it down.
For what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate.
As we now know, there was a conspiracy to hide the president's true
You could have
condition
gone a lot longer. That could have taken
By
up the
his-
entire hearing.
by his staff, by the media.
Okay, so in the room right now, we got Britt, Blackburn, Kennedy. I like Kennedy. He's funny as fuck.
He's fucking hilarious.
And whoever the fuck this dude is.
So what you're
Cornyn.
trying trying to say is that you don't know what the word woman is? you can't tell me what a woman is?
He's a more refined version of me with a southern accent, bigger than fucking. I love it.
Yeah, you claim to be the first woman?
Alex Thompson, who co-authored a book entitled Original Sin. That book
Okay, we gotta
amounted
go
to a
faster
mea
again.
culpa by the mainstream media, but they summed up the problem when they wrote this. Quote, what the world saw at Joe Biden's one and only 2024 debate was not an anomaly. It was not a cold. It was not someone who was under or over prepared. It was not someone who was just a little tired. It was the natural result of an 81-year-old man whose capabilities had been diminishing for years.
Yes.
Biden, his family, and his team let their self-interest and their fear of another Trump term justify an attempt to put an at times addled old man in the Oval Office
Ovis?
4 more years.
The Ovis office.
So make no mistake about it. This was a constitution.
He's trying to find the erection too.
Bigger than President Biden, bigger than any single
He's
election.
been trying to find that for years.
Can I tell you?
The collective
Can I say? I'm actually glad. I'm actually glad that Biden won. So that way more people, because if Biden didn't get in and we had a second Trump right away, I don't think we'd have the Trump we have now. I think we had to go through what we went through with Biden, with them trying to do the shit that they did to Trump, and now he's coming in with hellfire and brimstone, and now we get the Trump that a lot of people wanted. Trump would have never won the popular vote, I don't think, with the second term. I think he would have won the Electoral College, but I don't think he would have won the popular vote, and then it would have still been the same argument that he didn't win the popular vote. This time, we got everything.
No, you did. You might have won it, but it wasn't a mandate. It wasn't a mandate because with final numbers, it's just a couple million. Mm-hmm.
It pushed people to realize how corrupt our government was. Yeah, it was a shitty 4 years. A lot of our money went across seas, but it got it opened a lot of people's fucking eyes to be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yes.
What the fuck are we doing here?
Politics has now become pop culture.
Yeah. But it's like, you realize how much the government really lied to us all these years. Like, it opened a lot of people's eyes to how much the government lies to us and how much they hide, like the Hunter Biden laptop, like the whole Burisma thing, you know, how they kept saying that, no, how Joe Biden, you know, who was obviously senile, and you had the government and you had the news saying, oh, no, he's great. He's fine. He's totally fine. And people are just like,
and now writing books about the cover up and how everybody played their fucking part.
Yeah. So, yeah, listen, I get it. I get how people are pissed off about it. And I was too about it. But it got, like I said, it opened a lot of people's eyes. And I don't think Trump would have won or would have had the fervor he has now if he had won right after. It took Biden to win for more people to open their eyes than had opened their eyes before.
I mean, you do have a fucking point with that, though.
Yeah.
Everything that Trump went through in his first term, all the lies and everything, that actually kind of got people to pay attention. But it was Biden who made people ditch the fucking mainstream media and go elsewhere.
You have people leaving the party because of Biden.
Yeah.
And the policies.
I swear to God, that bitch is a goddamn daughter of a Chinese spy. She's been gunning for fucking congressional power since right after fucking college. No, y'all need to watch Lindy Lee because that bitch, her father knew nothing about real estate and became a real estate mogul in Pennsylvania within a couple of years after coming over here during the time when we had a huge surge of Chinese spies coming around the 2011 to 2015 era. Can we look into that shit, please?
RP, you're right. 2020 showed everyone the mistake they made by staying home in 2018. Exactly. He hid most of the campaign, and when he did come out, it was noon there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he'd call a lid.
It was no one there. Yeah.
Remember, he'd call a lid at fucking like 9:00 in the morning, like 4 days a week.
Yep.
And then they would be like, "Oh no, the president talks to people all the time."
Right?
Really?
I ain't seen his ass all fucking week. What you talking about?
Yeah. He called the lid fucking, He called a lid at 9 in the morning, Monday through Thursday. And then he went to Rehoboth. And then he was in Rehoboth for the weekend. And then you're trying to tell me, oh, Trump's golfing again.
46% of his presidency was spent on vacation, brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, Trump golfs a lot. He also gets shit done on the golf course, too, if he ain't shooting at his ass.
Of the press and an election where the president's party lost. Current events such as we are experiencing today in the Middle East are a prime example of why we need a president with his full cognitive abilities, making important decisions involving war and peace. We should know, but we don't yet know, precisely what should happen.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to 11 million more votes in 2016 or 2024. Track it back. I've put it the fuck together. We saw the HAVV data. We brought up that executive order that allows all but 5 or 6 agencies of the federal fucking government to register you to vote without your authorization. And now we get the story of the Chinese ballots and the Chinese IDs that are going to people that don't match because they were stealing the names and information off TikTok. Put it the fuck together.
When a president is unable to perform his or her
That's why they wanted to ban it too.
And that's the purpose of today's hearing. There are many unanswered questions from this scandal, questions that the authors of Original Sin failed to address in their book, questions that are foundational to the proper functioning of our government. We will address those here and shine a light on exactly what went on in the White House during the Biden presidency. We simply cannot ignore what transpired because President Biden is no longer in office. With a compromised president, our government's very legitimacy and capacity to function was undermined. The American people paid a price, from President Biden's handling of the border crisis to the disastrous events we saw unfold in Afghanistan. It's absolutely imperative that Congress grapple with these difficult questions.
Let's switch that over to YouTube
our
too.
Democratic colleagues would like to simply sweep it
Just
under the
copy
rug.
and paste everybody's name and
We need to
everything
know
over to
who was in
YouTube
charge
chat.
during the last months of
What
the
do you
Biden administration. Was it his wife?
What you
His
Amanda
chief of
said
staff?
and what you responded
Nameless
with.
others? None of these people were elected by the American people, nor were they authorized by the Constitution and laws of the United States to carry out the duties of the President of the United States. The 25th Amendment provides a roadmap for succession in instances of presidential incapacity. Section 4 gives the Vice President and a majority of the President's cabinet the authority to challenge the President's ability to carry out the functions of his office subject to a vote in Congress.
Guess my keyboard's
But in
better.
this instance, the
What
Vice
up, homie
President
Tighter?
and the cabinet, the very ones authorized by the 25th Amendment to question the President's capacity, they did nothing. Are there penalties when the when the cabinet and the Vice President refuse to carry out their duties under Section 4 of the 25th Amendment? Should there be more accountability? The framers of this amendment acknowledge that the execution of that amendment would depend on the good faith of the cabinet and the Vice President. But Biden's cabinet and the Vice President did not act in good faith. They acted in their political and personal self-interest. This is the great paradox of self-government. Many of the rules, traditions, and institutions that sustain our republic are self-enforcing. The health and legitimacy of our democratic republic rests on the character of the men and women who serve in government. As a government, it is imperative that we have clear contingency plans when emergency strikes. And yes, it is an emergency when we have a sitting president who's unable to discharge the duties of that office. The concerns raised by this incident stretch far beyond the bounds of partisan politics. I will note that few of my Democratic colleagues are here today. Thank you to Senator Welch from Vermont for being here, leaving us with no other option than to take the boycotting of this hearing as an admission of guilt for their role in this crisis.
Look at that. They're
We must
all
not turn
fucking
away from
gone.
the search for answers.
Except for that
And it
dude.
is not an overstatement to
I
say
don't
that
even
the
know.
future of our
I don't
country
know. We're going to
one
find
day
out.
hinge on how we choose to act or not act on this very issue. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses this morning as we examine the difficult but necessary questions that must be answered from this monumental scandal. I yield to my colleague from Missouri, Senator Schmidt, who will now co-chair the hearing.
Thank you. I do want to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to Chairman.
This motherfucker has to co-chair the fucking hearing because the chair is not there. He's the sit-in, and this motherfucker has to be the co-chair because ain't nobody there.
Chairman Grassley for granting me the privilege of co-chairing this committee with my esteemed colleague, Senator Cornyn. The title of the hearing, Unfit to Serve, captures a sobering and undeniable truth. President Biden was mentally unfit to carry out the responsibilities of the most powerful office in the world. Given his mental incapacity, the American people deserve to know who was running the country the last 4 years. Today, as we seek to answer this question, it is deeply disappointing but not surprising that most Democrats on this committee have chosen to all but boycott the hearing and have failed to call a single witness. They have chosen to ignore this issue like they ignored President Biden's decline. Their absence speaks volumes, an implicit admission that the truth is too inconvenient to face. By refusing to engage in this critical examination, they abdicate their responsibility to the American people. This de facto boycott is not just a refusal to participate, it's a refusal to serve the American people who deserve answers about who is truly leading their government. President Biden's decline did not suddenly begin in June of 2024. It was a persistent and obvious truth that was evident for years to anyone who was willing to see it. This reality did not require special insider knowledge or investigative reporting to uncover. We didn't need Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson to tell us what millions of Americans could freely observe with their own eyes. The truth was glaringly obvious. Anyone who was paying attention could tell that the emperor had no clothes. Nearly a year ago, I took the historic step as the first U.S. Senator to formally call for the invocation of the 25th Amendment against President Biden. I sent letters to every cabinet secretary and the vice president laying out the urgent case. Our nation was effectively without a leader. The absence of a functioning president wasn't an abstract issue. It inflicted severe consequences on our nation, consequences that touched every aspect of American life. On border policy, our nation's borders were handed over to the radical left-wing element of the administration, throwing open our borders to 15 million illegal aliens, an unprecedented immigration crisis that pulled our nation into chaos. On foreign policy, haphazard and reckless decisions placed our warfighters in jeopardy, escalated conflicts around the globe, and led to a catastrophic humiliation on the world stage that claimed the lives of 13 American soldiers, including one Missourian, during the disastrous withdrawal from Kabul. On the economy, rampant inflation drove up the cost of life's essentials, making them unaffordable to countless hardworking families. In the realm of culture, the regime censored free speech, closed down churches, targeted traditional Catholics and parents at school board meetings, and let an unelected class of left-wing radicals degrade, attack, and lie about our history and our heritage. A poisonous anti-Western, anti-American ideology that had once been confined to elite university classrooms suddenly became the official White House policy. All of this was done not in isolation. It was sustained, defended, and covered for by an alliance of elite institutions, from the media to the so-called expert class to big tech to the federal bureaucracy itself.
Yep.
When we speak of collusion among elites or the so-called deep state, we're accused of being conspiracy theorists. But this was no theory. It was plain and overt, out in the open for everyone to see.
Davey?
Yeah.
I want to show you something real quick. Espionage, spying, or intelligence gathering. As a subfield of the intelligence field, it is an act of obtaining secret or confidential information. A person who commits espionage on a mission-specific contract is called an espionage agent or a spy.
Okay.
Now, when you sit here and you hear about all this shit, and you remember that not only were they spying on the Trump campaign back then, you also had 750,000 American citizens that were spied on because they might have run into somebody that was of interest and said hi to them through the FISA warrants.
Yeah.
your own fucking government to set up every fucking bit of this to overthrow itself. The Democrat Party has been trying to overthrow our entire government for damn near a decade, as far as I can go back.
How do you mean?
You want to go violently? Okay, we can do all the riots and everything like that. Everything that they have pushed, every single thing that they have said to encourage people, to incite people to do things, all because of why?
For power.
Exactly. They're trying to violently overthrow the government to make you bend to their fucking will. Now that is sedition. Everything else that we have seen, all the illegals and everything, protecting illegals and all that shit, all the lying. Because let's admit it, living war takes many fucking forms. It's not just shooting a bullet at your enemy. When you go to war with somebody, your neighbor, you're just making their life a living hell, right?
Yeah.
You're going to war with your neighbor until somebody gives. Informational warfare. Isn't that what we saw throughout Trump's whole presidency? And Biden, for that matter? Psychological warfare. Didn't they levy psychological warfare upon you with all this Biden, Trump's racist because he said neo-Nazis and white supremacists were fine people?
Bro, I watched some of the compilations of like them asking Trump to denounce Nazis, and it was like he had to do it 3 times in fucking one press in 10 minutes in one press conference.
Dude, there is a
retarded
16 fucking minute video of him doing that over the course of history up until that point.
Yeah,
16 fucking minutes of just him saying, "Nah, I hate fucking Nazis. I don't like them. White supremacists should go to hell." Not in those words, but yeah.
I saw a video the other day from I think it was Jen Psaki was saying that she was reading Trump's mind. Trump said something, and she goes, "But that's not what he really meant. What he really meant was," and I'm like,
yeah.
What the like? Just that's what he said. How do you know what the fuck he was thinking?
Psychological warfare.
Fucking bullshit to me. You know, right.
I keep trying to tell y'all they're using treason to cover up sedition because they want to install some kind of the socialist communism where they rule you because they believe they rule you. You put them into office to rule you, not represent in their mind frame. What up, Harley's dad? How you doing?
For 4 years, we had a president who
What
could
up,
barely
Harley's dad?
string together coherent sentences after 6 p.m. Yet, this glaring fact went unreported, undiscussed, and unaddressed. Why? Because the Democrat Party, corporate media, federal bureaucracy, and big tech companies collaborated to conceal the truth from the American people, not out of ignorance, but because it advanced their own interests. In the absence of a functioning president, chaos took hold. An empty vessel occupying the Oval Office becomes a puppet for those surrounding him. Many elected officials, including some in this chamber, have used auto pens, a mechanical device that replicates a signature. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, so long as we are the ones actually making the decisions. But under President Biden, the auto pen became a troubling symbol, a symbol of an absentee president and an executive branch
What up, Omni?
directed by nameless, faceless aides that no one outside of Washington, D.C. had ever heard of and no one ever voted for.
Imagine Hunter Biden was the one who was controlling the pen.
A government run by committee rather than a leader.
I'm still thinking you might have been bullseye
Right.
fucking accurate with Joe Biden.
With Joe Biden, yeah. I'm
Once
telling
I saw
you.
her taking those meetings and everything, I was like, God damn. God damn, you might have been right.
What convinced me was the picture of her on Air Force One in the president's chair doing his work. She was on Air Force One.
Damn, you're right. I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck. It would explain the easy access to the auto pen situation. It would explain why everything goes back to 2014 for every single person. It would explain the January 6th committee. It would explain it all if it were Joe Biden.
Yeah. She was the one who was taking most of the fucking meetings for Joe.
You literally had your first woman president. How'd y'all like it?
Chosen by the American people. By contrast, love him or hate him, we all know President Trump is in command of his presidency, and he is the one calling the shots. It is plain as day that President Trump is actively making the decisions, whether announced via Truth Social or signature. Under President Biden, that transparency and certainty evaporated. We cannot confidently say that the decisions bearing his signature
you got it?
were the will of the president or his Politburo.
Give me a second then.
That goes double.
Go to Davy's screen. Go ahead. Oh, God.
This was a picture that convinced me. It says Joe Biden literally sat at the president's desk on Air Force One with the jacket and everything, signing documents. So of course, just now and only now is Sam Steen worried about unelected people interfering in government. She was sitting in the president's chair.
I do remember
When I saw
that photo
this,
now.
I was convinced that she was the one running the country.
You had your first woman president. I'm not going to pull back my votes. I'm sorry. You want the first woman president? It's coming from the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah.
The Republican Party wears its balls on its goddamn chest.
But, I mean, is Tulsi a Republican? I mean, I think she'd still be a Democrat or at least an independent.
No, she formally dropped the Democrat Party.
So she'd probably be an independent then.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because she is right wing, according to anybody else that doesn't like what's happening. So,
true.
I mean, you want to play about that. Welcome to 80% of America now.
For his social media posts, including his decision to drop out of the 2024 presidential election. We did not know if it was his decision or posted on his behalf
she
after a
removed
palace
her own.
coup because President Biden was mentally unfit to serve. The corporate media played an indispensable role in this cover-up, systematically suppressing discussion of President Biden's condition. As we will demonstrate in the video evidence presented today, dissenting voices were silenced and the truth was buried. It was not a passive oversight. It was deliberate. It was a deliberate campaign to shield a narrative that protected the interests of the most powerful. Even members of this very committee.
Here's another one.
All right. Yeah, that was when
she was running the G7.
Yeah, that
sitting
was
in the
when
president.
Biden just came in there and said, "I'm going to turn it over to my wife. Take it over, kid."
Yeah, there he is. He's standing right there, and she's sitting in his chair, leading the G7 summit.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that one clear as fucking day because I was like, God damn it. That was the moment that I said, God damn it, Davey might be right.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw that shit, when I heard that fucking clip, I was thinking to myself, Davey might be right, God damn it. But yeah.
some of whom served alongside then Senator Biden when he chaired this very committee, defended his mental acuity for years. Now Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson offer a convenient narrative to absolve everyone involved. The media lacked access, the family was overtly protective, the cabinet was incompetent, and Robert Hur said the president was merely a well-meaning man in aviators who liked ice cream. It is the tired, evasive refrain of the politician caught in a lie. Mistakes were made. Yes, mistakes were made. And every participant in the cover-up, from the media to the cabinet, is jointly and severally liable for what may very well be the greatest deception in our nation's history. Even their apologies today are framed in a way that absolve them from responsibility for this crime against the American people. They apologize for having missed the story. They didn't miss anything. They actively chose to ignore or run cover for the people in power. The Biden cabinet rarely met, and some members, like former Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, deliberately distanced themselves from the president to maintain plausible deniability. Even members of this committee were part of the Great Deception. The Monday after Biden announced he would not seek re-election, one member called the idea of invoking the 25th Amendment outrageous, insisting the debate performance does not reflect who he is or his capacity to govern as President of the United States. Another member repeatedly vouched for Biden's fitness, declaring, Joe Biden is fit, capable, and ready to serve another term. And later, this is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on. Yet another, during the 2020 Democrat presidential primary, alluded to Biden's decline, but quickly retracted his remarks when it became politically expedient. After the debate, yet another member praised Biden's strong delivery of remarks to NATO as evidence of his capacity to lead.
All right, we're going to speed this up
The
again.
purpose of this hearing is not to interrogate Biden officials or partisan reporters, though they should be held accountable. Instead,
We still ain't even gotten to the
identify
witnesses.
and rectify the systemic weaknesses that allow this situation to fester unchecked. Our distinguished witnesses, experts in White House transparency, operational procedures, and executive power will assist us in diagnosing these flaws. While the House and Senate pursue fact-finding missions to hold these responsible to account, our mission here is to chart a path forward. We cannot allow another weekend at Biden's presidency with its glaring national security vulnerabilities papered over by an autopen. The D.C. establishment might argue that the governance of a shadowy, unelected figures is a legitimate substitution for a functioning president. It is not. The American people cast their vote for a president, not a faceless apparatus. Article 2 of the Constitution vests immense authority in the President of the United States.
She's not
a single
Republican,
individual.
RP. She's
With that
me.
extraordinary power comes equally profound responsibility. At the Constitutional Convention, our founding fathers debated giving the president the title of Defender of the Rights of the American People. The security and well-being of the American people and their rights must take precedent over personal ambition. It is often said that power corrupts. I believe that power reveals.
Are
Over
you
the
sure
past
about
4
that,
years,
Harley's dad?
this cover-up laid bare
They think
a
you're an
disturbing
idiot.
reality. The left and the corporate media place their pursuit of power above the welfare of your families and your country. They dismiss your observations, urging you to not trust your own eyes. We have a solemn duty to call this what it is, an abdication of constitutional duty. As was stated in Federalist 51, ambition must check ambition. If a president is mentally unfit to serve, we need a dependable mechanism to, at the very least, ensure that the truth reaches the American people. I look forward to the insights this hearing will yield and from our expert witnesses in the discussion that will follow. The public is counting on us to ensure this never happens again, because we won't always be fortunate enough to have a leader like President Trump, who is so unmistakably in command. Senator Welch.
Thank you very much. Senator Cornyn indicated the view of the hearing is that there was a constitutional crisis as a result of the cover-up.
It was Senator
President Biden's
Welch,
decline.
the only Democrat.
I believe there is a constitutional crisis. It's the collapse of Congress asserting its Article 1
You send this
authority
guy?
to
Yes.
make decisions
This
about
guy to
the
represent-
well-being of the American people.
Democrat from
When is
Vermont.
this Senate debated?
It's a
In the
Senate
months that we've been
debated.
here, other than
Every
nominations,
time.
have we discussed the possible war with Iran? Have we had a serious discussion on the floor about the massive and mounting debt? Have we had any discussion about the abdication of congressional spending authority by the impoundment actions of an administration?
Have we talked about anything going on now? Why are we focusing on the past? Why? Why can we not get past the point that the Democrat Party actually tried to commit sedition? Why can't we get past that? We got more pressing matters, don't we?
Have we had a discussion about climate change that is causing havoc throughout the world? What we've done is gone to the floor and haven't debated. We've gone to the floor and voted on nominations. There's another issue of great concern to me because I have enormous respect for my colleagues. Each and every one of us who was elected, it's the highest honor of our life. Each and every one of us came here because it is in our bones that we want to try to do something beneficial and make life better for the people we represent. And we have different points of view. But instead of this Congress debating those different points of view about oil exploration or about clean energy, about a good healthcare system, what we do is turn that debate into personal accusations.
I don't give a shit. The 117th Congress actually started that asshole, and that was on you.
Of motivations, of cover-up, of conspiracy, of bad character, of demeaning folks who disagree with us. So we never get to the discussion about how do we have a healthcare system that works for the people in Texas, the people in Louisiana, and the people in Vermont. We never get to the discussion about are we going to deny the reality of what you know is true, climate change, and how do we address that in a way that maintains a strong economy and actually builds a strong economy. We get into the accusations that if you disagree with me, you're a left-wing radical. We get into these discussions that if you disagree with me, you're a Marxist. We get into these discussions that fan the perception
really quickly,
of the people we all represent.
What's up?
No News Hangout. Sean, show's canceled tonight. Sean's on his way to the ER.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, send thoughts and prayers over to Sean.
What for?
Don't know. Amanda just said Sean's show is canceled tonight. He's going to the ER. Send good vibes to Canada.
Well, she just said tonight's show is canceled. Sean's a little sick and needs to go to the hospital. But we'll keep you posted. Okay. Keep us going. All right. So, chat, light it up. Close to the end of time. We'll let you know when we're close. I want you to find somebody on Rumble that we can pass it off to. Can't do it off on YouTube without setting it up in the back end. We still got to find somebody for that.
Who desire nothing more than be able to take care of the families, live with some security, make a contribution in the communities where they live. That if a person disagrees with you, they are a bad person. We will get nowhere with that approach. Now, so many of the
Harley's dad, you were fucking drug running shit. There ain't no goddamn way you're an idiot.
things that happened in the Biden administration I totally supported and many of you totally opposed. Those are policy disagreements. He came in with COVID. We got through COVID. We can debate about how we did it, but that was an accomplishment. The American Rescue Plan, we had the biggest jobs creation in the history of the country. The CHIPS and Science Act. Acknowledging that we have to have a strong economy and be able to have the best chips here manufactured in the United States. We did that. The federal...
Like I said, it's the only thing I will give the Biden presidency. Yes, it did give the large majority of the money to only 4 companies that Nancy Pelosi did invest in. However, they were the only 4 companies that could do what the fuck was needed in that bill. Now you can justify a $2,000 video graphics card because it's made here in America instead of overseas in China.
Disaster program improved significantly. And I can go on. And I'll take up something where we didn't do well, and that's immigration. You won that argument. But does it mean that those who disagreed with you and along the way were bad people, should be labeled Marxist, should be condemned? The American people ultimately gets to decide. But to the extent that we have a responsibility...
Roll that back. Roll that fucking back. What did you just say?
You won that argument. But does it mean that those who disagreed with you and along the way were bad people, should be labeled Marxist, should be condemned?
Weren't you calling Republicans fascists, Nazis, maggots? Didn't you start that though? So why are you complaining because somebody said a bad word to you? You started it.
The American people ultimately gets to decide. But to the extent that we have a responsibility
So I
that
decided.
we share, Republicans and Democrats, whichever side of the issue you're on, is to debate the issue and not debase the people who are in the debate. That's what I see as the crisis that we're facing in this Congress. Our
You mean on your
refusal
shit?
to engage in
Because it's that fucking meme where the fucking troglodyte is hitting the cop with a balloon over the head continuously, and then the cop pushes it away, and it falls on the floor and starts crying.
Not a single member of the minority who represent half
That's
of
what they
the
are.
citizens of this country can even be in the room when the terms and the policies are being debated.
That's the kid on the playground that says you're a poop head, and you say your mother should have swallowed, and the kid starts crying.
We are not there. That is what I call a cover-up, because our responsibility to the people we all represent is to debate health care, is to debate our budget, it's to debate about the debt that we're going to be leaving future generations. And there is no debate in what is going to be decided in the private back rooms, amid discussions, not even of all the Republicans, but of some Republican leaders.
I will say this, though.
That's what's going to have...
While this dude's saying, you know what, I'm going to turn it down, because we're just going to keep going with his horseshit of this. But I will say this.
Lasting impact on the people every one of us represents, whether it be in Missouri, Texas.
That's literally the way I call it every fucking time. Y'all were slinging that shit not too fucking long ago. So because people sling shit better than you, you get choked up and you want to complain about how you're such a fucking victim when you're the one that started the shit in the first goddamn place.
And then you turn around and use the same fucking shit that we used on you, and you turn around and try to use it on us.
Right.
Like it's gonna fucking bother us.
The left is a fucking cult. No, the right is a cult.
The right is a cult.
And if the answer is no, it doesn't have any opportunity to help the folks.
The right is everybody that's not you.
Because it won't help.
So what does that mean?
Yeah, the right is anybody who asks a question. If you're a leftist and you go, hey, maybe COVID wasn't such a bad thing. What are you, a maggot? What are you, a maggot?
It doesn't even matter, dude. If you step out of line in any fucking way.
That's what a cult is.
That's going to be to the mutual benefit of all of the people that we represent.
I mean, our fucking staff. Hold on.
Thank you. We'll now
Who's next?
introduce the witnesses. First
the witnesses.
From my left to right.
I will say this before we get into this. Our fucking staff, our heads of state right now, mostly ex-fucking Democrat. And they're the most prominent ex-fucking Democrats we've ever seen in our fucking time. What?
John Harrison. John C. Harrison is the James Madison Distinguished Professor and Class of 1941 Research Professor at the University of Virginia School of Law. He's a graduate of the University of Virginia and the Yale Law School. After graduating from law school, he engaged in the private practice of law, then clerked for Judge Robert Bork on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. From 1983 to 1993, he worked at the U.S. Department of Justice, including as Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the Office of Legal Counsel. He joined the law faculty at the University of Virginia in 1993.
Being sped up.
In 2008, he was on leave
This
from the
dude
law
is
school to
rocking
serve
back
as
and forth.
counselor on international
Look at
law and legal advisor to the United States Department of State. His principal
Slowly
academic
fucking
fields
doing
are
it. He
structural
looks
constitutional
worried.
law, administrative law, federal courts, and constitutional history. Skipping over the empty seat to Theo Wald. Theo Wald is a...
Did this motherfucker just say that? Hold up.
Administrative law, federal courts, and constitutional history. Skipping over the empty seat to...
Oh, empty seat. I thought he said MPC. I was like, there ain't no fucking way.
Skipping over the NPC.
I'd have been like, all right, yeah, I got you. I'm paying attention. But no, you said empty seat. You're an asshole.
Theo Wald. Theo Wald is a visiting fellow for law and technology policy at the Heritage Foundation. Wald is the
I'm gonna
former
turn my
Solicitor
camera
General
off
of
for a
Idaho.
sec.
Previously, Wald served as the acting assistant attorney general in the Office of Legal Policy at the Department of Justice and deputy assistant to the president for domestic policy under President Donald Trump. Wald clerked at the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit for Judge Janice Rogers Brown and the U.S. District Court for the District of Puerto Rico for Judge Jose Fuste. Wald is an intelligence officer in the United States Air Force. Wald holds degrees from Georgetown University, where he studied government and English, and from the University of St. Andrews, where he studied English literature, and a JD from the University of Notre Dame. Mr. Wald and his wife have 5 children and live in Boise, Idaho. Sean Spicer. Mr. Spicer served as the 30th White House press secretary, is the author of 4 best-selling books, and the host of The Sean Spicer Show. Mr. Spicer previously served as communications director and chief strategist of the Republican National Committee and worked for several members of Congress. He currently serves on the board of visitors of the U.S. Naval Academy, holds master's degrees from the U.S. Navy War College, and is in his 26th year of service in the U.S. Navy. Mr. Spicer is a native of Rhode Island and resides in Virginia. It is the tradition of this committee that all witnesses will be sworn in. If you'd please rise, I'll swear you in now. Raise your right hand.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I'm not going to do a poll is because I guarantee you, just like the fucking governors, the sanctuary state governor hearing, every single one of them is a fucking shill.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. And now we'll start with you, Mr. Harrison, with your opening statement. Sure, Mike there. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cornyn. The committee has asked me to discuss Congress's power to regulate the process by which the president's signature is affixed to a document other than by manual signature. That is to say, the use of an auto pen or similar technology. I have 4 points to make. The first is that the Constitution and the laws generally, when they require that the president act by signing a document, do not require that the president manually sign the document. The Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel wrote an opinion on that subject in 2005, which is quite extensive, and I find it persuasive. The concept of signature is signing a document is more general than, like a lot of concepts, more general than its central application. The central application is manual signature, but that's not the only way by which someone can sign a document. Someone can also sign a document by indicating that the person signing the document has decided that that person's signature should be affixed to the document by some process other than manual signature. The second point is that as a general matter, Congress has power to carry into execution the constitutional powers of the other branches of government. The last power that is conferred on Congress by Article 1, Section 8, is the end of what's called the Necessary and Proper Clause, and it provides that Congress shall have power, I'll read the whole clause, to make all laws which will be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, that's Congress's other powers there in Article 1, Section 8, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. That's the last part. That's the part that's relevant here. It's sometimes called the horizontal.
Davey.
Yeah.
Right above your head. Did you see this motherfucker looking at his phone?
I think he needs some glasses.
The motherfucker can't see a goddamn thing because that's the way I would look at my phone if I had my glasses off.
Look at his hair. Look at that hair.
He wears a baseball cap.
Giant spot on the back.
He
got a
wears
yarmulke.
baseball. Yeah, well.
Got a yarmulke head.
That could be. You're right.
Got a yarmulke
Necessary and proper clause because
hairline.
it operates horizontally among the three co-equal branches. Congress is the legislature. There are times when one of the other constitutional
There he goes. He
powers
put his glasses
can use
on.
support that can be given only by the force of law.
You
And
think
that is something
your
that
frames
Congress can
are
do
as
with
thick as
horizontal
mine, sir.
and necessary and proper power. The next thing I'll say is there are some principles, I think, that should govern exercises of the horizontal, necessary, and proper power. The first is that it operate to support, to assist, to make cause to function better, the power that is being carried into execution, be it that of the president or that of the federal courts.
They took
The
my
second
stapler.
is that
They
in supporting the other
took
powers,
they took my
Congress does not
stapler.
seek to exercise
They
powers
took my
that are
stapler.
vested elsewhere, like the power to decide cases, like the president's power of pardon. And third,
My
when Congress
stapler, and I
exercises
told
that
them to
power,
give it back,
it
but they
should
wouldn't
make
give it back,
sure
and they took
not
my
to
stapler.
put substantial
I'm
burdens on the
gonna light
exercise
this
of the
place
other
on
powers that are
fire.
seeking support.
I'm gonna
Powers
light
once
this
again
place on
vested
fire. They took my
elsewhere
stapler.
than in Congress by the Constitution. I think Congress can
That shit was great.
regularize the process by which the president's signature is affixed without his manual signature in a way that would
This
be
guy's
consistent
taking
with
stats like it's a
Congress's
baseball game.
horizontal, necessary and proper power. In particular, Congress can require
yeah.
that when the president indicates that his signature is to be affixed to a document without manual signature, that that decision by the president be documented and some individual record that the president has made that decision and that be made part of the public record.
He is really
say, by being
working on
published in the
some.
Federal Register or the weekly compilation of presidential documents. A statute like that would carry the president's power into execution because making sure that the president really has made a decision
I
and that
look
it
good
wasn't
on the
made by someone
shorts.
else with the president's auto pen
I'm a
is a way
dick.
to make
What
sure
can I
that the
say?
power is properly exercised, that is, by the president. As long as a statute like that is completely neutral, applies the same way to all presidential decisions, it shouldn't raise any problem of Congress trying to control the president's authority. Again, constitutional powers are vested in the other branches and supported by Congress under the horizontal necessary and proper power. And third, a requirement of documentation.
like
although the White House has a lot of
Redenbacher.
documents, the requirement of documentation would not place a substantial additional.
I just hate the fact that the motherfucker did the whole. Just grab it by the side, lift it up, and push it back. Do something different than the whole little, I'm a dumbass dork.
Really? Really? That guy? That guy.
Which guy?
The guy you're talking about going.
What, with the bow tie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really think he's going to do anything but that?
No. But I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, too.
I'm saying you can't look like that and do these goddamn stereotypical things and expect me not to call it the fuck out. He pushed his glasses up in the middle instead of grabbing by the side like everybody else does and fixing it. He just, it's fucking, I hate that.
Burden on the president in the process.
He's wearing a pink bow tie, Richard. What do you think he's going to do with his glasses? You think he's going to be fucking Tom Cruise? No.
So that any statute Congress enacts will
He's fucking Milton.
Work better rather than making it not work as well. Thank you.
Chief Wiggum's son.
Mr. Walt.
Senator Corbin, Senator Schmidt,
Hashtag your bow
thank you
tie
for
is
the opportunity to
crooked.
testify this morning about how the cover-up of President Biden's mental decline endangered America's national security and undermined the.
I wear glasses.
You know how fucked up it would be if everybody found out who the fuck that dude was and you just took this clip right here and just tagged him everywhere on that shit? The motherfucker would just be like, why the hell am I being attacked right now? What the fuck? Because
just find his fucking
background, bitch.
Find his Twitter account and just fucking tag him in it.
Look, you got the kid who played fucking Batman in Gotham right here behind your fucking head. You see him?
Yeah. Hashtag nice bow tie dick.
Constitution. The U.S. Constitution vests executive power in a single person, the president. At the
We
founding,
make the
the
news
president
cycle for
exercised the
that.
executive power through only a small group of trusted advisors and personnel. In fact, President Washington had a 4-member cabinet. Today, the president directs a Leviathan executive branch.
Oh,
with
I bet
15
you he
cabinet
will be
departments
the
and
one.
At least 4
Yeah.
million full-time executive
He's
branch
gonna have some
employees.
money.
The executive
Bet she's
branch
got- yeah.
proliferation has
Bet
a
she's got,
single
like, 2, 3
source
kids.
of democratic legitimacy. That by order of U.S. Constitution's Article 2, the president is both elected by the American people
RP
and
says he
vested with the
pushes
executive
his
power.
glasses up
All
by
of
the
it.
bridge too. I usually
Traditionally,
use
the
my
president
middle
takes
finger.
positive actions and
I mean,
authenticates
that's
those
the only
actions through his
time it's
signature.
acceptable.
His signature is required
Middle
for the most
finger.
significant
That's what I
actions he
use
may
when I do
undertake.
it.
To sign an executive order.
That's what I
take
use
any
to give
action
the example.
invested in him by
Is
the
my middle
Constitution,
finger.
as in granting a pardon,
That's
and
the
to take
only
most important
time
action
it's
of all,
acceptable.
To sign a bill into law. In all these cases, the president's signature is itself the protection.
Deluxe
of
with the
democratic
dono.
principles.
I
The
hate
president
repeating
signs-
myself, but the Democrats are a cult. Who else can't come to any middle ground on abortion or define what a woman is? Me. Consequences build character. A woman can give birth. Very true. Very, very true.
Yeah. An adult human female with the organs capable of creating another human being, whether working or not. XY chromosomes.
I always forget, is the women XX or XY or XY?
I think they're XY. Let me take a look real quick. Fuck you, Wikipedia.
Yeah, Harley's dad. They won't. They won't. They won't.
XY is male. Okay, so
Yeah.
XX chromosome.
Yeah. Yeah, Harley's dad. They won't give themselves term limits. They won't do it.
Look, I even fucked that
Too
up.
much power.
Look at me. I can't even
Too much
define
power.
it. No, they won't. They definitely won't. But I can't even define what a woman is. Look at me.
He communicates his assent and endorsement of the
Human
action
female.
he takes. The auto pen
XX
is a device
chromosome,
that signs the president's
apparently.
signature to a document. The oversight project, of which I am a board member, has discovered that the Biden White House deployed an auto pen to affix President Biden's signature to pardons, prison commutations, executive orders, and presidential proclamations. The oversight project's research has found that the Biden White House first deployed the auto pen to affix President Biden's signature to a
You know how you remember it?
on day
Women are
5
most likely to do
of his
porn.
administration. And that there
XX.
were at least 3 different auto pen signatures in use throughout President Biden's tenure in the White House. In June 2022, the Biden White House began deploying the auto pen to sign clemency warrants and executive orders.
It tracks.
Auto pen use skyrocketed from there. We found that of the 51 clemency warrants issued during the Biden presidency, over half, 32 in total, were signed with an auto pen. And these include some of the most controversial acts of clemency of the Biden presidency, including death row commutations and the preemptive pardons of members of the Biden family, Dr. Anthony Fauci, General Mark
Jennifer
Milley,
and Carolyn
more
are
that were
laying
issued in the
into
final
me.
days of the Biden presidency. We reviewed President Biden's schedule and his publicly available media and were unable to find any record of President Biden's personally approving these actions, such as a statement issued by the president himself to reporters. In addition, we found that the Biden White House used the auto pen to affix President Biden's signature
We
to
are at
clemency warrants and
increased
executive
speed,
orders
Carolyn.
while the president himself was in Washington, D.C. for at least some of that day and thus was presumably available to
Titties.
sign important executive actions. Finally, we found multiple days where President Biden wet signed a bill into law but used an auto pen to issue an executive order or for other important executive actions. The Biden White House's widespread use of an auto pen to affix President Biden's
At
signature
least
to
I
documents that
tried.
exercise executive power.
Davey, the I hate repeating myself was from last night's troll.
Oh, that dude. That dude.
That dude was fucking gay.
He demanded he come on right now to speak to us. And I'm just, I avoid, like Discord. I barely ever look at Discord and shit. And I ended the show, spent some time with the wife, went to bed. I woke up the next morning and that was the first thing I saw was that in the chat. And I was like, all right, we're starting the day like this. And I kind of laid into him. But he demanded he speak to us right now, right then. We drop what we're doing and we pay attention to him. It was fucking. Ooh. Anyway.
I told you. I said it before and I'll say it again. The fucking COVID gave people who shouldn't have a voice. And gave people like that who think that they are deserving of something. And they're not. They ain't deserving of shit. I'll fucking do what you want me to do.
I'm starting to think it's a troll related to Rob's chat. Because I fuck with the trolls hard in Rob's chat. So, hey, you got free speech over here. The dude went to Rumble to make sure he could say whatever the fuck he wanted. I let him into the fucking Discord. He's got free reign for viewership, rando and viewership, or rando and viewer. He can see all of that. Yet he demanded to come on the show and then disappeared altogether.
Deluxe with the dono, bro. I blew them up last night. I screenshotted all my chats.
Nah, I'm kind of starting to think I know who that was. And he's willing to speak. I'm willing to let him speak. But I guarantee you, what will happen, it'll start off cordial. He'll make a comment 3 different times, that underhanded fucking nutshot. 3 different times. I will call it out every fucking time. And then after the 3rd time, I will start coming back heavy-handed as shit. He will start playing the fucking victim on it all. And then when I call that out, it'll be a safe face. I don't know. You're crazy. I don't understand what you're trying to say to me. And then he exits. Every fucking time.
Let's do this, Brutus.
Is he still on your Discord? Yes, he is. He hasn't left.
President poses significant
gotta pee.
constitutional, legal, and practical considerations. Once the president's signature is copied and loaded into the autopen, the machine can sign documents as the president himself would. To be
Rhoda?
blunt, by
Renata
using
was
the
connected
autopen,
to somebody
anyone
that you know.
can sign documents as the president himself. Now, to be clear, I'm not here today to suggest that the autopen is bad. It's just technology. I'm here today because of questions concerning President Biden's capacity and whether the autopen was used to usurp presidential power or to conceal the president's decline. As the sitting president's mental acuity declined, potentially to the point of incapacitation, his administration's expansion of the powers of the presidency raises more questions than answers. Any investigation into this matter should focus not only on whether President Biden directed or authorized subordinate staff to take action in certain instances, but whether he had the capacity to do so at all. The 25th Amendment lays out clear procedures for what to do when the president is incapacitated. It was carefully drafted and informed by our nation's history. The Biden administration ignored it all to aggrandize executive power and push the country further in their preferred ideological direction. It is our obligation at this point to get to the bottom of these issues and ask the important question as to whether or not the autopen and other devices were used to cover and obscure President Biden's mental decline, undermining our national security and also the Constitution. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning.
Oh, Sober, you got me
Right on time.
excited. I thought you were talking about that there was more riots in
Chairman
L.A.
Schmidt and Cornyn, members of the committee, thank you for having me. I was asked to share my experience as a senior White House staffer with respect to the interactions that I and other senior staff had with President Trump during his first term. During my tenure as press secretary, I interacted with the president multiple times every day. Most days I would talk to him by phone or in person early in the morning and then multiple times throughout the day, including weekends. For the most senior positions in the White House, those designated by the rank of assistant to the president, which includes the White House chief of staff, the White House counsel, and the press secretary, it is critical to have regular interaction with the president. The position of press secretary especially demands this type of consistent and intentional communication. I or any other press secretary, regardless of administration, could not do the job effectively without regular communication with the president. It was my responsibility to have the most up-to-date understanding of President Trump's position on policy, personnel, and everything in between.
Riots are so last week.
I made a couple of rather
What's with the
high-profile mistakes during my tenure.
Whoa, hold on. Are we getting ads on our channel now?
I don't know. Got an ad?
We got people saying what's with the ads. Did they? I definitely did not turn that on myself. So if they did that, I'm gonna look into the background on all of that, Carolyn.
On YouTube?
Yes.
Huh.
It's coming from the YouTube chat. I'm definitely gonna look at the back end of that.
You may have read some of them. But in all cases, those mistakes occurred when I wasn't connected with the president's thinking or position on a particular issue or policy. Coordinating and collaborating among even the most senior staff cannot replace direct communication.
Yeah. Hold the fuck up. No. Ah, shit, dude. My wife brought that up to me. Tim actually was talking about that on his members only content, how YouTube was actually forcing ads into shit now.
Even if you have premium?
He turned on YouTube. He turns all the shit off for the lives. Make sure that, any way, shape, or form, there's no commercials being ran, but there are commercials still being ran on his. And I do the exact same. So we're seeing ads on our shit now, even though all that shit's turned off on every live. I turned it on for the replays and things like that, but I turn it off for the live. That is always a mainstay in that. So if they're auto turning that on, maybe I have to check it every fucking time. I'll look into that.
That's fucking gay.
God damn, that's fucked. Oh, that's fucked. If that's happening, we'll see if that actually comes into us then. So, because if it doesn't,
Communication with the president himself. In my position, I was very well acquainted with the president's work,
I'll make sure.
his day-to-day responsibilities.
I'll check it every single fucking time now. I'll make sure it's a thing where it's not in that. And if it keeps happening, yeah, there's something going on.
And his fitness for office.
Yeah, Jennifer O'Connell says that
of a man half his age.
That's
As you
why
can
she pays
see,
for
on almost
premium.
a daily basis through events, statements, and social media posts. He's up early and ends his days very late. Yet in several instances during his first term, the media questioned his fitness for office. guests and so-called experts like Sanjay Gupta at CNN were called upon to speculate on the result of Trump's physical and mental well-being. The Washington Post ran hit pieces with headlines like, "The White House struggles to silence talk of Trump's mental fitness." Vox wrote, "Is Trump mentally unfit to be president?" NBC ran a story by the Associated Press that raised mental health concerns regarding the president. CNN's Brian Stelter questioned if members of the news media were, quote, tiptoeing around obvious questions about President Trump's instability. These headlines were not isolated instances. Most major news outlets ran with these ridiculous type of propaganda pieces. To use one of the media's favorite terms, these inquiries were without evidence.
Maybe
That
he
brings us
is
to
in
the
a show.
juxtaposition of how the very same media covered the Biden administration. To be blunt, the legacy media failed the American people. They failed to do their job. Many, rightly so, believe the media in this country is culpable in covering up the obvious decline of the 46th president of the United States. The scrutiny that was baselessly directed at President Trump during his first term was wholly absent from the media coverage of the Biden White House. The media lacked any sense of curiosity that would naturally stem from what the public could see with their own eyes. Even in the face of deeply concerning and public signs of President Biden's mental and physical decline, legacy media outlets were silent. Biden and his senior aides flatly dismissed the need for a cognitive test during his tenure, as had been requested of President Trump. Yet no protest was heard from the voices that were so critical of Trump. With the exception of a couple White House reporters like Fox News Channel's Peter Doocy, reporters generally refused to breach the subject at White House briefings. News outlets weren't the only ones complicit in covering up Biden's decline. Presidential staff would have or should have been interacting
Dude,
with Biden
I'm
on
gonna
a
have
daily
to show you
basis.
the back end of
At
this
best,
later.
his administration was grossly negligent. At worst, Biden's staff actively concealed his fitness for office. When White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said President Biden could run circles on her, there were only two possible conclusions: that she herself was in poor health and in need of medical assistance, or that she was lying. There is no question that a vast difference between how President Trump interacted with his staff and how President Biden did.
This changed.
When
What the
whether
fuck?
one supports President Trump or not, he is clearly the most accessible
Yeah,
and
see?
transparent president in modern.
It overrode my preferences. You're right. I'm gonna have to choose it. I'm gonna have to choose it every time now.
Fucking gay.
Let me try to turn it off again in the background. No, that's
history. And
fuck.
there is no question who is running this country. The same cannot be true said of President Biden. It is the president who is elected by the American people. The role of staff is to execute his agenda and policies. I thank the committee for holding this
I'm gonna
hearing
have to pay
so
a
that
lot
going
more
forward, the American
attention.
people can have the confidence
Gotcha.
in who is running the country and making critical
Thank you,
decisions.
guys, for
The
letting
American
us know.
people deserve
Hell
no
yeah.
less.
Thank you for those opening statements. The minority did not call any witnesses for today's hearing. They have chosen to ignore the hearing as they chose to ignore President Biden's mental decline. But we do have a short video of some previous statements from the Biden administration officials and Democratic Party officials telling us not to believe our lying eyes. We can play the video.
Oh.
Does the president have the stamina physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
Don, you're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with him.
The most difficult part
Huh.
about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it, because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
I can testify because I've been working very closely with this president for the past 2 years. I've been knowing him for 30 years. And I'm telling you, this guy's tough. He's
You like
smart.
my tie?
He's on his game.
Joe Biden
It's
has
blue.
vision, he has knowledge, he has a strategic
She'll
thinker.
pick it out for me.
The president is focused. He's detail-oriented. He's always thinking about the big picture.
He is engaging. He is capable.
Pause it for a
He has
sec.
an incredible.
Do you remember when I said, when they have to tell you somebody's doing a good job or that somebody is sharp as a tack, they're fucking lying?
Oh, hell yeah.
When they have to tell you Joe Biden's doing the greatest job in the world, and then it comes out that Jake Tapper writes a book about how the president's cognitive decline.
Dude, come on. There ain't no way. True and honest shop at the pressure. Next nail wrestling. Got a calf care. You can't sit there and tell me you didn't know. Nobody fucking knew. Are you kidding me? There is
my
no
argument
way
doesn't need
in
to go to
fuck.
prison.
What was in that? What was it? I was in the foothills of Appalachian Mountains, and it was like, I'm Come on.
He's as sharp as a dull crayon.
Incredible record as president.
And I'm often with him on foreign trips. He's at the top of his game.
So he has a vision, he has knowledge, he has judgment,
talking to
he has
ghosts.
strategic thinking.
I met with the president, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks ago, and he seemed fine to me.
Maybe that's what distracted him at that air
I
show.
have watched him expertly guide.
He was talking to
meetings
ghosts,
of staff,
not the
and,
parachuters.
cabinet members. I could not have more confidence in the president.
I would just tell you that I meet frequently with the president, and every single time I meet with him, he is.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to understand this is the asshole right here that said he would call China if Trump ordered a strike after January 6th. This motherfucker openly said he would commit treason. Granted, that would be a hard question, because if the dude just went off the fucking handle trying to launch nukes like you try to play him up to be, that wouldn't be a lawful order, now would it? But you wouldn't have to call China to make that decision. But to say you would call China to tell them when and where a strike was going to happen? Now, that's straight up giving aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States within its borders or elsewhere.
Just fine.
But he is, again, knowledgeable, wise.
Incredibly sharp, incredibly probing, incredible command of the details.
He is sharp.
That sounded gay.
Of things. There is nothing to these challenges, these suggestions that somehow he's not sharp and he's not capable.
We see Joe Biden up close. We know how attuned he is to the issue.
And you're going to see how smart he is and the experience he has.
I say his age is an asset.
He's wise.
Yes, he's wise. He has wisdom. He has experience.
And his experience, because of his age, and
Look at his eyes.
wisdom,
Pause.
has been invaluable to.
Look at those fucking eyes. He hasn't blinked, by the way.
No.
He hasn't blinked.
No, what he's doing is staring at the camera because he thinks that staring at the camera like that, he's staring into your soul. And when he's staring into your soul, he can say whatever he wants to say. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the world is fucked up. And it is your fault. Just like it's my fault. Welcome to the shithole we created.
He looks like Jeff Daniels in Dumb and Dumber.
I can fucking see that.
This country.
A lot of countries,
Oh my
who've been in
God.
office a longer period of time are
I was
praised.
not expecting that one.
It's Steven Van Zandt.
What up? Sorry, he scared the shit out of me. That was an actual scream, baby. I'm sorry. She just looked at me. She snapped. That was an actual scream for me because I did not expect this. This is when the motherfucker said he had cancer because he had that botched hair plug fucking job to put pubes on his head.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the back of his head still has no fucking hair.
And then it
Put it all in
started to
front.
grow the fuck in, and it looks like goddamn pubes. He slicks it the fuck back. He tries to color it. It looks like fucking pubes. I'm sorry. But he was doing all this because he got a hair plug job. I say botched because it got infected because this motherfucker played it out for goddamn months.
People who've been in office a longer period of time are praised for their wisdom.
I have seen a lot of 72-year-olds not as capable as
I
this
like how
80-year-old.
It is hard for.
I'm sorry. I like how Jamie Raskin makes me finally fucking scared. He came on the screen and I wanted to punch.
Us to keep up with this
You
president.
screamed like it was the girl from The Ring.
It's great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. He's fine. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
I don't know. Maybe
And this
it's
kind of
the
sense that he's
frequency
not
of his
ready for this
voice.
job is just a bucket of BS that's so deep your boots will get stuck in.
Yeah.
Okay. Professor Harrison, I do want to ask a couple questions. I just want you to presume for a moment that that a pardon was issued under President Biden's auto pen signature, but issued without his direction. It comes to light that that he actually didn't.
All right, we got to speed it up
a member
again.
of his staff.
I'm sorry.
Use the auto pen.
I'm
for a
not
pardon.
sorry.
What recourse
1.5
is available under those circumstances?
Senator, I think there would be two questions. The first has to do with whether, and I can't answer it other than to identify the question, which is to say sometimes documents that are properly authenticated are treated
1.25
as having been validly issued even when they're not. That can happen. There are legal rules that produce that result, and I don't think there is such a rule about a pardon, but I would have to inquire into that again because there are such rules. The other thing I'd say is that for a pardon particularly, the only situation I can think of that clearly would bring into question whether the pardon was valid, which was the first question, was if the government sought to prosecute someone and the person who reportedly received the pardon offered the pardon as a defense, then the government might say that no, the pardon was invalid and therefore you weren't pardoned, you're still subject to prosecution. There might be some other way for a question like that about a pardon to come up. I can't think of another, but that's the one I can think of.
So from your perspective, let's just say that if there isn't any other legal recourse other than the one that you sort of brought up, what advice would you give to this committee or this Congress or the Senate to address that? What remedies could the legislative branch enact?
It's hard to think of anything Congress can do ex post. That's why I do think that it would be advisable ex ante to improve the process of authentication and make it more clear that documents that are signed by AutoPen really do reflect a decision by the president. That done in advance will make whatever the authentication system is more reliable.
Mr. Wald, given sort of the role that you played in trying to provide more
Sounds great,
transparency
right?
to what happened during the 4 years under Joe Biden, who was running the country
queer. Pass it on.
under Joe Biden? Let's just take the last 2 years.
It's a great question, Senator, and it's
Alex Padilla is an anchor, baby. Faggot.
some level. I'm not
Pass
the right
it
witness
on.
for this hearing. I mean, there should be members of the media
And
here,
that's a PH
maybe some of
AG.
your Senate colleagues who
Pretty hot
have known
and
the
gay.
president over the years, and also close proximity during the time of his administration, and obviously his staff. I think, sort of align with your previous question, there is a real consideration here on authentication. And in my time in the first Trump White House, there was an exhaustive process to determine how paper flowed into the Oval and when the president had given his assent to a certain action. That was through, in fact, two different policy channels, the staff secretary, and then there was also an office, essentially policy management, guiding the flow of documentation. If the Biden administration staffers and personnel wanted to put this to bed, they could very easily dispel all of this by saying, here are the documents that show the president assented to these actions. The Trump administration would have that. Previous administrations would have that, and if that's not there, then there is cause to improve.
Yeah, Rhoda, they all have
executive branch
soulless
employees
eyes.
authenticate actions undertaken by the president.
Yeah, I mean, the president actually performing the functions of president is kind of an important thing in our constitutional order. You had, kings used to affix their seal to show that this was an official declaration from the sovereign in this country, the sovereign of the people. They delegate, the authority to their elected representatives. And as you mentioned in your opening statement, there's only one person elected by everybody. So that signature, this is not just a small point, that signature issuing a pardon for someone who'd been convicted of a crime, or in the case of Joe Biden, these preemptive pardons, which are sort of unprecedented, is a big deal. And I think that's part of the reason why we're here today. Mr. Spicer, I wanted to ask you, you alluded to this, but the media is so desperate to make sure President Trump never got back into office. Of course, you saw the lawfare that took place, but then, of course, this narrative that Joe Biden was fine, don't believe your lying eyes, until that they couldn't deny it anymore based on the debate. Could you just kind of compare that to your experience when you were, press secretary for President Trump, to sort of the inquiries that were made daily about his mental acuity versus the inability to do that during the 4 years under Joe Biden?
Well, Senator, in many cases, there was no inquiry. They would just run with a story, having guests
That's
on
an
that
actual
would
great
question his
question.
physical or mental acuity, speculate on it, bring guests on that would speculate it. We would often then push back on those kind of stories. That's in vast contrast to the lack of any kind of curiosity that existed throughout the 4 years of President Biden. And I think the difference was they would seize on the simplest thing with President Trump, whereas in President Biden's case, there was multiple issues of physical, mental confusion, him going in the wrong direction, him falling down, him misunderstanding an event or not being able to finish a sentence. That was never the case with President Trump. They were almost manufacturing instances in his case without actually trying to get to the bottom of a story or inquire within the press office to get our response. They would go with the story, then we'd push back. With Biden, my understanding from the conversations that I would have with the media is they would never ask. They just literally were basically afraid to go there.
Senator Cornyn.
Professor Harrison, it strikes me when
I guess you busted your own envelope because that's been way far busted on this channel of the yellow. You said I'm going to bust the envelope, you fucking gay faggot.
Talking about the auto pen, there are really two issues. One is the mechanical use of an auto pen in lieu of an actual signature by the president. But it seems to me that we're confronted with the more important or more fundamental issues is, did the president know that the auto pen was being used for that purpose? And so one would be if somebody stole the auto pen and was signing pardons on behalf of the president. But what we're confronted with here is really the capacity of the president of the United States to understand what he was supposed to be doing. And just thinking about other areas of the law where capacity is important. And whenever it comes to...
I do want to say this. While I'm listening to these things, I watch the people in the background because we pointed them out so much.
I love watching the people in the background.
It's creepy as fuck when they don't move, but it's annoying as hell when they move too much. Where is that fine line between that shit? Because that woman flipping her hair every 5 seconds is just distracting as shit.
Which one? The one on the left?
The only woman on the screen.
Because she looks dead right now.
She's been flipping her hair back every 5 seconds.
People writing a will, let's say, for example, disposing of their property to their children and grandchildren.
This is her part of the
Occasionally,
speech.
there arises the issue of testamentary capacity by the person disposing of their property. And generally speaking, to have testamentary capacity, that person must understand they're signing
See,
a will.
she's moving
They
way too
comprehend
much.
the nature and the extent of their property. They recognize their relationships with potential beneficiaries and understand how the will disposes of their assets. So why can't we have a similar inquiry into the executive capacity, let's say, of the President of the United States to actually know what he or she is doing?
Senator, you're absolutely right that question, whether the president or somebody else who holds official power has the legal capacity to exercise it, is distinct from authentication of documents. Authentication of documents.
Why the fuck did he shake his head 7 times?
Another question. With respect specifically to the president, I think the answer there is, and this may be out of the frying pan into the fire kind of answer. The answer there is Article 2 and then the 25th Amendment deal with the situation in which the president is unable to exercise his powers and duties. And
I
think
love
it's a
people
reasonable
watching,
inference,
Jennifer.
although
I
the
love
Constitution
people
doesn't
watching.
say this, that a president who is not determined to be unable through now what's the 25th Amendment process for making that determination. There's no process in Article 2 itself. The 25th Amendment added something. A president who has not been, pursuant to the 25th Amendment, determined not to be able to exercise the powers and duties of the president is presumed to have capacity to do that. I say that not on the basis of any sort of other than practice. That's the way it's been for a couple of hundred years. But I think that is a reasonable inference from the fact that the Constitution does make a provision about what happens when the president's unable, and the 25th Amendment then provides a process to determine by which the president's unable.
Mr. Wald, following up on Professor Harrison's answer, the 25th Amendment requires actions by the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to declare the president incapacitated, incapable of carrying out his or her duties. But there doesn't appear to be any accountability or any remedy when they fail to act as they did in this case. Some have suggested that there may be potential crimes committed by
I'm sorry.
members of the cabinet.
I can't show Rumble
for
Chat
failing
right
to
now,
act,
but
basically suborning perjury.
I hate flying.
Forging
I
government.
did. I hate flying, but I love being at the airport watching people.
Davey.
Yeah, I read it.
Okay. Don't repeat it.
Daddy,
That's
what
the
is coming and why is his head full of it?
That is going to have to be a members only story. But I yelled that.
You yelled that?
With the windows down, eating food in my car with a friend of mine because we were people watching. I fucking yelled it. It's a great story. Because it caught attention. 2 young adults in a car. One just flips his head over and yells, "Daddy, what is coming? Why is his head full of it?" And the entire parking lot turned their head.
documents
It's a
impersonating
wild
federal
story. That's
officer,
going to have to be members
making
only.
false statements, conspiracy to defraud the United States, obstruction of justice, wire or mail fraud. Those are all statutes, criminal statutes that are on the books. Do you think there's any application of any of those criminal statutes to the circumstances of the Biden presidency and his incapacity and the failure of those persons, only persons authorized to question that incapacity under the 25th Amendment?
Davies
The failure
flying
on their part to act.
on Google Earth.
Senator, there very well could be. I mean, obviously, that would be a question for a prosecutor to take up in their discretion. I will say the 25th Amendment, it's a modern contrivance, but it still is consistent with American constitutional tradition, which it assumes that officers of the United States will act virtuously and morally. And the idea that members of the cabinet would go to the length of avoiding the Oval Office so as to abdicate their responsibility.
I'll tell you something.
I still yelled that a girl was a rug muncher in the middle of a Mexican restaurant, okay? I think I might have won.
No, when you hear this story, I'm going to tell it Saturday. When you hear this story, that shit was amazing too. But yeah, this one's going to be great. I don't think I've ever told you this one. Because, like, she just said she likes people watching, and I was just like, wait a minute. I got a story for that. But anyway.
The president, if that's not a constitutional scandal, I mean, honestly, I don't know what would constitute such. So yeah, I mean, I think there could be the potential for crimes, but moreover, the 25th Amendment can only function in its procedural mechanisms if people are actually willing to call a spade a spade.
Senator Britt.
Thank you, and I really appreciate Senator Cornyn, Senator Schmidt calling this hearing. This is incredibly important. I mean, you look at what the administration did, you look at what the Democratic Party did, you look at what the legacy media did. It is absolutely inexcusable. It is not only dangerous, it's disgusting. And the American people deserve better. And the fact that we have none of my Democratic colleagues over here, that this entire dais is empty, that what they allowed to happen, that they are not interested in correcting it for the future is absolutely mind-blowing. And so when we're looking at what Joe Biden did while he was in office, you have a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. I mean, leaving equipment, leaving
See, this
allies,
is the dumbest.
Changing
The dumbest part that they could do is not have anybody there, because it's all one-sided now. So now everybody just gets the one side, and there's no defense.
You had that one person who cried out, why aren't we talking about what we want to talk about? Instead of
climate change.
Us fucking you over.
Deluxe with the don't know. Other yellow. I have many days of missing driving my semi. I love trolling areas with the dual 13 6x6 straight pipe stalks on my Peterbilt. I named her Betty White because she's an oldie but a goodie.
But Lex, I don't know if you've ever said it before, but you're either from Texas or the Deep South.
the way the world viewed us. You
By
look
the
at
way,
an emboldened Russia,
this is
Iran.
my senator.
You look at what happened, obviously, with China and those conversations with Joe Biden. You look at millions flooding across our border.
I will admit this little thing she did with her in the kitchen kind of situation, that was shitty.
That was
Stop
weird.
playing the semantic games, ma'am. Again, the Republican Party wears its balls on its chest. Do what I sent you to do, not the theatrics.
You look at a ton of unaccompanied children coming across hundreds of thousands. You look at hundreds of thousands of Americans dead because of fentanyl poisoning. You look at record high inflation. Who was in charge? And the fact that not one Democrat colleague can show up and try to get answers to that, I hope the American people see that for exactly what it is.
Right.
And so my questions to you is, how do we prevent this in the future? So we know that the 25th Amendment in the 1960s, we take a look at that. Section 4 was purposefully vague to allow for some flexibility. Clearly, it either didn't work or we have some people we need to hold accountable for not stepping up. So I want to know from you all, what do we need to do? Do you think that there need to be more guardrails when it comes to Section 4? Do you think that we need some more standards to evaluate that? And if so, what should those standards be? And Professor Harrison, I'd like to start with you.
Senator, this is a question about further implementation of the Section 4 is one that has not received a lot of attention because fortunately, the country has not needed it very often. I think that this is a situation in which Congress's power is pretty limited because the Constitution, by design, put a somewhat vague but nevertheless meaningful concept, which is ability on the part of the president
Right, and it also means
in the
good
hands of
faith.
political process. That's
yes,
the
and
last thing
good
I'll say.
faith.
Yes.
And I don't think, obviously, we don't have that here. Mr. Wald, do you have any opinion on that?
Yes, Senator. So you said, should we hold folks accountable and should there be some reforms? The answer would be both. Yes. So, your colleague on the Democrat side who did attend, Senator Welch, said, hey, this is just kind of retrospective. We need to move on. I would strenuously disagree with that. The only ability to move forward is if there's an accounting of what was undertaken under the Biden staff, the Biden personnel, the bureaucrats, and the cabinet. And one thing I'll just say is this very issue was debated.
Motherfucker, we need to start actually charging these people worse than the citizens would have.
Mm-hmm.
When their lives are on the line, this bullshit will stop, and I guarantee it.
Debated by Republicans in 1988 in the Miller Commission report at the University of Virginia. Republicans had the open and honest, transparent discussion about the end of the Reagan presidency and whether or not there were other.
You have an entire party that just tried to overthrow your fucking government.
Of a mental health professional on the
trying.
White House medical team, whether the Surgeon General should oversee the inclusion of medical reporting as part of Section 4, Clause 4 of the 25th Amendment. All I'll say is all of those things have been set aside. There has been no legitimate discussion in the years since about how to make the 25th Amendment more robust and how it could actually operate in the instance that the president
Right, and do we
lacked
need to
capacity.
more clearly define what unable means in the 25th Amendment?
Oh, I think most certainly, and I think there should be. Look, the other issue, and a number of legal academics, former colleagues of Professor Harrison, have taken this up over the years. Professor Calabresi wrote about this 20 years ago, that there needs to be a more precise definition, and there are lots of issues related to succession.
There clearly does, because even from all of us from the outside, we're saying there is a problem, and the fact that we could get no one on the inside to actually take a look at what they already knew to exist and then be able to hold them accountable. We have to have other guardrails moving forward, and that is absolute. So we need to be talking today about what those guardrails are. I have a question. I'm running out of time. It's two things. One, senior staff. So I have been a senior staff member. You take an oath when you get to come and work in this body. You want to make sure you're doing what's best for the United States of America, for the state you serve, all of the things. Is there any way to hold senior staff accountable for either helping to cover up and or moving people to the side? Because it is clear that there are people within this administration that saw that, and they should be sitting in front of us today answering the question of why they turned their back on America, because that's exactly what they did. And so whether it's secretaries, whether it's people in the administration, or whether it is senior staff, we deserve some accountability and we deserve some answers. And then my last question will be for Mr. Spicer, Legacy Media. How in the world do we hold them accountable? If all of us on the outside can see it and we are saying, get to the bottom of this, but yet they refuse, what mechanism should we put in place to be able to hold them accountable for not actually following what is clearly in front of them?
18 U.S. Code 2381. Giving aid and comfort to those who levy war against us. I need you to join that fucking call, Katie.
Senator, you're asking the right question when it comes to accountability.
Deluxe Knight with the dono. Sorry, I was born and raised in Southeast Washington. I did spend 2 years in Northeast Texas insuring horses and managing a gas station while going to college for AG management.
Oh, this motherfucker. Look at him. Might have met my match with Deluxe. I don't know. We're going to have a talk next time. Not this Saturday, but we're going to set up a Saturday. We're going to have a talk with this motherfucker. A real talk. We were riot watching the last time. And I apologize because that was something that needed to be done. But you're coming back on, brother.
It can't be overstated. When the Biden White House stripped 440 White House hard passes from independent journalists, they were attempting to control the narrative, to make sure that no one who wanted to hold them accountable was silenced. Part of what I think this administration has done so well is bringing in new voices, people from disparate backgrounds of all sorts, to ask the White House press secretary, to ask the senior staff, and to be able to hold them accountable. Part of it is allowing other voices in the media.
Have a
We've
good
seen
night,
what the
Jennifer.
legacy media did, but that's why I think the growth of independent media is so healthy for our democracy, and we need more of it, not less.
Thank you. And then the senior staff question, please.
Good night, Jennifer.
Yeah, look, Senator, senior staff from the
I'm gonna
first
call it
Trump
a hard
administration
stop
were
at
brought
10.
in before committees and investigated
If
for
you
their
need to go,
participation
you
in
can
drafting
go.
the president's remarks on January 6th.
I
drafting the
get to
speech.
10.
So if there was an
Okay.
effort by senior staff, the Politburo, as they seem to
Man
like
is
to
home
call
today.
themselves, if they were purposely distancing cabinet members, evading difficult Q&A with press,
We'll lessen
all
the
as an attempt
squirrel
to
out
conceal the
moments.
president's mental acuity, yes, they should be held accountable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Moody.
Thank you, Senator Cornyn, Senator Schmidt.
I will
appreciate
say-
you holding this important hearing. And certainly, I appreciated my colleague,
I'm
Senator
okay
Britt's
with my vote
remarks
for
and
her.
listing out so many of the failures of the last administration as they played out. I think Americans,
Miss
yes,
Moody.
sat
What the fuck?
horrified as they watched these events unfold.
Oh, I know her.
But
Okay.
at the core of those failures were bad policy decisions. And the truth is, you know, people talk a lot about the end of the Biden administration and his debate performance. But those of us that were involved of the repercussion and the consequences of some really
Did the Biden
bad,
senior staff really
irresponsible,
call
reckless,
themselves
I
the
would say
Politburo?
dangerous policies, and were involved from day one of the Biden administration, we started questioning immediately who was making these decisions because they were so disastrous for the security of this nation and the safety of our people. So I would say from day one of the presidency through all 4 years, this was a legitimate question, and every single failure that Senator Britt listed was the consequence of a policy decision. When I was the Florida Attorney General, one of the very first executive actions that came out undid both Republican and Democrat presidential precedents of saying if someone is here in our country and they're here illegally and they are committing serious felonies, we are deporting them. And actual priorities were that those were the ones they went after first. And one of the very first actions that came out of that White House was they abandoned that both Democrats and Republican presidents had enforced and released to all law enforcement around the nation that they were no longer going to make that a priority. When sheriffs were calling and pleading with us to take these people from their jails and not make them release them back into the communities, we would try and communicate this, but indeed they were canceling detainers and releasing these people into the communities. They were taking people that were brought here from other countries, brought here only to prosecute because they were a danger to our nation and our people. And instead of deporting them after their prison sentences, they were pushing them into the United States. And I don't think it should be lost on anyone that just yesterday it came out. You know how many the Trump administration pushed into our interior in the last full month? 0. And I want you to compare that to a month of the Biden administration where hundreds of thousands of people, barely vetted, if
Relax
vetted,
nice
were
with the
forced
dono,
into our
bro.
nation's interior.
I hope we can, again, in the next couple weeks. 4th is around the corner, and I like blowing stuff up in the sky. I'd even have you both over and make a fucking weekend of it. Where are you? Are you in Washington? Because we're in the Midwest. He's in the South. I'm in the Midwest.
I think there was something behind what you just said. Are you trying to say something? I'm trying to find that clip. You remember that fucking video of that Biden transgender dude that went through the White House talking to people with the nails and everything?
Yeah.
It had Jen Psaki. I'm trying to find that clip for that because RP said that the Biden senior staff really call themselves Politburo. And I wanted to be like, I don't really fucking know, but here's this. It would have been great if I would have found it, but
And you've seen these consequences play out. It's not
I can't
just
find it.
rape victims,
I don't know how to
murder
look for it.
victims, robbery victims. We've caught people here that's from foreign nations that are on the terrorist watch list that can cause some of our nation's biggest tragedies and devastation. That is the undermining of what a commander-in-chief is supposed to do in those policies. We saw it day one, and that's just one example. And it played out for 4 years. So I think one of the reasons that you see not one Democrat in this hearing room right now asking these questions is because how do you defend the indefensible? What are they going to say? I mean, there has never been a more reckless, negligent administration that I can remember in my lifetime. And as Attorney General, as the wife of a law enforcement officer, as a federal prosecutor, as a judge, I sat horrified that that was the person that was in charge of our safety, our commander-in-chief, in charge of our borders. And I know, Mr. Wold, you have talked about the danger in executive actions being pushed out when somebody's not in charge that understands how it's affecting the safety of this nation. I'm sure based on your prior experience and some of the things that you saw being pushed out, I often thought, this is a radical aide's dream. You have a commander-in-chief barely paying,
I can't find
probably
that
not
clip.
able to pay attention, and they're pushing out policies left and right. Tell me in your experience if you noticed anything where that could be the case coming out of that administration.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. I mean, I think on the immigration score itself, so many of those sort of special powers exercised by President Biden on parole, on temporary protected status. They require the president to do those in his own name, correct? It's a case-by-case evaluation performed by the chief executive. And so I think in reviewing some of those, when I was sitting on the sidelines, the question I had was, what does the paper process look like for that? How did DHS work that up? How did it go through the staff secretary's office? And what was the president briefed on as far as the policy considerations tied to some of these decisions to bring in violent criminals from Haiti or Nicaragua into the interior of the United States?
Did it concern you when you learned, and we are now uncovering, that cabinet officials were kept from meeting with the president for months at a time?
Look, I mean, if you go back through our history, Senator, so Grover Cleveland, Wilson, FDR, JFK, President Johnson, President Biden, it's almost a Democrat sport to keep from the American people the health and acuity of the chief executive. They've been doing this for a long time. But this is of another level, especially as Mr. Spicer was mentioning, the complicity of the national media in obscuring this, but also that cabinet officers would go to the lengths of avoiding interacting with the chief executive because they were fearful that they would have to speak to his diminished capacity.
And I'm running out of time, and it was of particular concern that the media seemed to never ask him about executive actions and policy. Favorite flavor of ice cream? Yes. Why he was pushing dangerous criminals into the interior of this nation? No. And that is why I think this hearing was so very important. What was coming out of this administration was a radical wish list. And certainly you can see it, what has happened to the consequences playing out right now. And now I think we're all seeing why.
Thank you. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm so pleased. I join my colleague from Florida in saying it is time that we have this hearing. All across Tennessee, I hear from people every single week that say what was really going on in the White House, and why would no one say anything when, with your very own eyes, you could look at any of the footage and see what was transpiring with President Biden. And I think the fact that many of his own cabinet members knew that he was not fit to serve and that there was a cabal behind the curtain who was making all the decisions. It is so offensive to the American people. And it's not something that is a partisan issue. As I talk with Democrats, many of them have lost faith in what they thought was going to be a very moderate Joe Biden administration, and it turned into be the far left Bernie Sanders version of the Democrat Party
That
was
Spuds.
using the auto pen and making decisions
We
and
got
committing
Spuds in the
our
house?
great
Hold on.
nation to policies
He's
that
on the
American
YouTube side.
people did not support
What up,
and
Spud?
would never have
Says flying
supported.
from Fort Myers to
I
Atlanta,
fully
8
believe
hours
that
behind
because of
schedule.
that
Has to
overreach
stay in
and
Atlanta
that
for
flippant
on his own
attitude
dime.
that much of his staff had
God
toward
damn,
the
dude.
policies of this nation, to people in the administration that chuckled about tossing gold bars off the Titanic. They knew they were going down. They knew they were going to be found out. And they probably knew at some point there would be a hearing like today, and the other side of the dais would be completely empty because no one can defend what they did. Mr. Wold, I want to come to you
I like
for
Blackburn.
a moment.
Oh, the yellow. I like Blackburn. But a lot of her talking points come from the two people behind her. As far as what I was showing you, what you saw with Katie Britt.
I mean, the kid that looks
Very-
like he's from fucking Hogwarts.
Yeah. Very fucking rarely did Katie Britt look down. But Blackburn is. I get it with old age. Things are going to be missed. You still have to read. You still have to understand. She gives a great presentation. But I have to question, is that really her idea? Knowing full fucking well, most of these people, the speeches that they give, the line of questioning, it's from their staffers, not them.
Yeah.
And talk about something that was
I'm still
really
on the
a
fence with
disturbing
her.
revelation from the Tapper Thompson book. And you know, this is part of the thing. Now we're finding out the media was all a part of the joke. They were part of the ruse.
See, she's not
They
looking
were part
down.
of the
This is
fraud
her.
that was pushed forward. A Biden staffer told the authors
And then we snap back
that
in.
Biden just had to win and then he could disappear for 4 years. That's all they needed to do. And, you know, it is, the following statement was, he'd only
Sometimes
have
when I
show
listen to
proof of
her, I
life
feel like it's
every
a
once in a
ruse.
while. And
Sometimes
as
I'm
I
just
had a
like, you're
Tennessean
saying
say
good
to
shit.
me when they had actually
But I got a
downloaded this
question.
book and read it, And then they said, you know, how stupid do they think we are? And the disrespect this administration showed to the American people. Why is it that the American people appreciate that President Trump goes out and nearly every day is taking questions and answering questions? Is because they have now found out that these staffers were willing to do undemocratic things, using their term, to keep the president in office, to keep Biden there. They were willing to do undemocratic things, unlawful things. So, Mr. Wold.
Treasonous things, Marsha. Call it. Treasonous. It gave Hayden comfort to the enemies of the United States to cover up the fact that they tried to violently overthrow this country.
Let's talk about that behavior and how that undermines the faith of Tennesseans and all Americans in our public institutions, because they could see what was happening, but they were being lied to by people in the White House who were probably then running in their office and saying, well, we pulled it off another day.
Yeah, Senator, I mean, this is a theme you've talked about for many years, which is the executive branch is enormous. I mean, there are close to 1,000 employees in the executive office of the president. There are nearly 4 million full-time federal employees throughout the 14 departments that the president oversees. Executive power, as accountable to the people of this country, really manifests in two ways. The power of the president to remove bureaucrats and fire them, and to affix his signature to official actions that he undertakes. So when the Washington establishment says something effective, well, democracy dies in darkness. Yes,
my wife looks
when there
down
are
at me.
staffers, the media,
She's 4
cabinet
inches
officials,
taller.
senior advisors to the president who all create a covering sort of a shroud of darkness that obscures who is actually making the decisions. And one other thing I'll just say very quickly, a number of your colleagues on the Democrat side have said, well, there's an OLC opinion here. We don't need to talk anymore. There's an OLC opinion. It says you can use the auto pen. The opening paragraph of that OLC opinion says you can use the auto pen, but only when the president directs that you do so under his decision-making power, right? It is very clear again and again that the president actually has to make the decision. That cannot be delegated to a staffer or an advisor. And there's no indication here that anyone other than staff were making these decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to all the witnesses for
There
being
we
here.
go.
You know,
Here's mine.
The visual, sometimes it really is true. A picture speaks louder than words. It's worth 1,000 words. And here, all you have to do is look over at this side of the dais to see that the stone wall continues. I mean, from the party that lied to this nation for 4 years. Let's just take a look at some of the things that our colleagues said on the Democrat side when their own Justice Department was concluding that Joe Biden, who, let's not forget, illegally took classified documents and kept them in his garage, in his freezer. I mean, Lord knows where. He just certainly didn't know. Their own Justice Department interviewed the guy and concluded he could not form the requisite mental state to stand trial. He did not have the mental ability to stand trial. And what did our Democrat colleagues say? Vice President Harris says, oh, no, the way that the Hur report characterized the president is so wrong. The president's demeanor is totally fine. Senator Smith, what the Hur said about the president not remembering his son's death is so unfair. Senator Kaine said this is grandstanding. Senator Fetterman said it's just cheap shots. You had other senators saying, Senator Ossoff in February of 2024, saying, and I quote, I found the president to be sharp, focused, impressive, formidable, and effective. In June 2024, Congressman Jeffries insists Biden was, and I'm quoting again, incredibly strong, forceful, and decisive. Where are they now? They don't want to answer for any of those quotes now. They lied to us for 4 years, and we know they lied. They know they lied. It's why they're not here. They don't want to answer a single question. They can't bear to show their faces in public. And you know what? It's right that they can't do that, because the bill of goods they sold this country, they walked this country right into one of the greatest constitutional crises of our history. And now they are afraid to even show up to admit it. These are people, and this is a party that cannot be trusted with power, that cannot be trusted to tell the truth, the most basic truth. They all changed their tunes after Joe Biden debated President Trump, and the whole world could see he couldn't even form a sentence, that running this guy for president again is a form of elder abuse. My, how they changed their tunes after that. Now they can't even show up in public to talk about it. This is embarrassing. But worse than that, it's dangerous. It is dangerous for this country. Mr. Wold, I want to pick up on something you just said a second ago about the OLC and their opinion as to...
I will say this. I feel like this dude did practice this, though. He ran into that way too quick for that to be like off the hip kind of situation. Like his...
He always talks that fast, though.
I understand. But like we're talking right now, dude. Like when I took that pause between I understand twice, He's just like, I understand. I understand. It seems I like the dude. His voting record's great.
Listen, that's my
Loosen that
senator.
fucking tie, though.
Watch your mouth. That's my senator.
Loosen that fucking tie, though. But that's just me. I'm an asshole.
Loosen that tie. He wanted to fight his fucking opponent. He went to the Missouri State Fair looking for his opponent. He found his opponent and was fucking squaring up on him. He went looking for a fucking fight.
Okay, cool.
He's like, let's fucking do this. You want to fucking do this? Let's go. Come on.
This shit seems prepared. I'm sorry, if you're representing me, it's going to have to sound off the hip. The only reason you should be reading any kind of script whatsoever, if you're representing me, is the fact that you need to look down for whatever stats you need to bring up at that point. You don't need to be reading shit. It doesn't need to sound robotic. I don't give a damn. I like the dude, but loosen the tie.
Listen, just because fucking you have Brit and she was the way you like it and you're being fucking biased.
No.
Yeah.
I like Holly. Dude, he is incredibly effective in these fucking hearings. Loosen the tie. Take a few pot shots and stop with the safe jabs.
When an auto pen can be used. Just be clear about this. Auto pen means not signed by the person. Auto pen is basically push of a button and it gets signed. OLC says only when the president specifically directs it and it is.
Let's put it this way. Marjorie Taylor Greene came out fucking haymaker. Right out of the fucking gate. As soon as she went into Congress, she was throwing haymaker after haymaker. So is Hageman. Well, we started a little bit of fight and it petered the fuck off. You got Luna out there, goddamn, knocking it out the park one fucking shot. His problem, it sounds robotic.
Well, I mean, he is a lawyer, so
I understand.
He does have stuff prepared.
I understand. You got stuff prepared. Cool. I got stuff prepared too. But the way I'm talking to you sounds more personable than what he does. And I get it. You only got 5 minutes. You got to pack everything you can in there. Or you could just take a fucking pot shot at somebody and it turns out to be a haymaker in the fucking end. This is simply because you went off script. Holly can be something. This motherfucker can swing. You got your Jose Canseco in fucking Senate. And the dude's trying to ground field everything.
Under his direct authority. Do I basically have that right?
That's correct, Senator.
So, based on the facts we know, did that happen in this case with all of the pardons and clemencies and other giveaways that Joe Biden signed?
Assuming that the Biden White House complied with sort of traditional practice of presidential administrations and that there was record keeping either from the staff secretary or others, there should be records to indicate either through covering memorandum or briefing books where the president would have signed his signature authorizing this decision. None of that has come forward. That would be very easy to dispel some of these concerns. And I think what we're seeing here is really the auto pen is best understood as sort of a tool of executive
Hold on a
convenience.
second. You just said something very important. I want to emphasize that. So what you're saying is that there should be, for every time that Biden authorized the auto pen, there should be a record of that. And he
See? Tie is loosened. It doesn't sound robotic. It doesn't sound prepared. Because this motherfucker's going off the hip. Pull that opening statement back and people will listen. Stop making it sound robotic. Stop making it sound like it's prepared and you're just performing. This motherfucker would be a shooting goddamn star in the Senate.
should have had to have registered his
But you
personal
can't get
consent
past
to
the
using
opening.
auto pen. Is that basically correct?
I think to put it another way, I would say in the policy paper flow to the Oval Office, there should be a record of what documents are presented to the president when he gave his assent to the actions that are listed in those documents, whether it's a judicial nomination or it's a statutory response to Congress.
Well, I think the answer is we need to get those documents. And I just say to our friends in the media over here, you guys need to be asking for those documents, and we need to be asking for them, Mr. Chairman. We need to see those documents. And the president, the former president now, could certainly choose to release them. I'm sure they're part of his personal papers, right, Mr. Wolf?
And that's correct. And the first place to start would be the staff secretary's office under President Biden.
Oh, here's the trail. If you want to know, if you want an answer to the question, did Joe Biden actually assent to the use of the auto pen? And you think of all the people he pardoned, he granted clemency to, murderers, drug dealers, child rapists. Let's find out. Did he actually authorize it? There should be a record of it, is what we've learned today. Thank you for that testimony, Mr. Wold. There should be a record of it. So this is a binary question. It's not, oh, we don't know. Gee, it's hard to say. No, actually, we can find out. So right now, today, I call on President Biden, former President Biden and his staff, release the documents. You have them. You know you have them. Release them. If what you did is legal, and if you're really not embarrassed about it, and you think it was totally constitutional, release the paper flow. Show us the documents where the president authorized the use of the pen for every single pardon and clemency and stay application. Let's see it. Let's see all of it. And if you won't do it, we should subpoena those documents, and we should find out the truth of who was really running the White House, because I think we can see it was not Joe Biden. Thank you all for being here today. Mr. Wold, thanks for your testimony.
See what I'm saying now?
Mm-hmm.
The opening statement, it sounded prepared. It sounded woody. It sounded like you just speaking to speak. Nobody's going to listen to that. Why is Kennedy here so fucking popular? Despite the fact that he's a dick.
Because he's hilarious? Because he's hilarious?
Because everything he says shoots off the hip. The only thing he relies on his staffers for is the actual numbers.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, I want to try to separate.
Look at that. That came up.
Politics
That was
for a
not
second.
planned. I promise.
It's hard to do around
I
the
haven't
place.
heard
I
this.
thought, Senator Cornyn made a very good point in his opening remarks. I think Senator Schmidt made the same point that
Not looking down.
policy here is very important. And I want to ask you your opinion on the policy. Professor, tell me briefly, I know you came to talk about auto pens, but tell me briefly about the 25th Amendment.
Well, Senator, the 25th Amendment provides the process by which to implement a principle that's in the original Constitution, which is when the president's unable to exercise the powers and duties of the presidency, somebody else exercises them, starting with the vice president. The 25th Amendment sets up a process by which, if there's a question whether the president is able to do that, the vice president and the heads of the executive departments can temporarily basically put the vice president in as acting president, and then Congress ultimately decides the question.
Well, the standard, is it not, Professor? The standard is disability of the president. Is that correct?
Unable to exercise the powers and duties.
Okay.
Yes.
Here's what I would like your opinion on, and the opinion of these two gentlemen here. You have all been staffers. You've worked in government. You've had a boss. In Mr. Spicer's case, his boss was the President of the United States. Let's suppose the President, you were using your experience as a staffer. You were working.
See what I'm talking about with Kennedy?
Yeah, I know.
Motherfucker straight off the hip with everything. The only thing that he's got right in front of him, the only thing he relies on these people is going to be actually between the angle of the camera, probably these two right here. The only thing they rely on him for is the actual numbers. This
By the way,
motherfucker pays attention.
That's the only guy that's smiling. The one who works for Kennedy is the only one that fucking has a semblance of a smile on his face.
This motherfucker's probably getting 6 figures and ain't doing a damn thing. You know it.
By the way, Federal Court of Appeals has unanimously blocked California Governor Gavin Newsom's attempt to regain control of California's National Guard from President Trump.
Oh, yeah. That came down a while ago, though, right?
It was just 9 minutes ago.
No, that happened literally hours after they put that request in, and he said he was going to get it back because they wanted it.
I don't know. That's what Raw News is just put up.
Show it. Federal unanimously blocked Governor.
Because I think it was going back and forth.
A Oh no, this went federal.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was their state senate that said no,
Mm-hmm.
and they went, okay, all right, let's go back. Y'all saw it. The federal fucking court said, go fuck yourself.
For the president, any president, hypothetically a president, and let's suppose the president started talking like he was from outer space.
Newsom just
suppose
took
the
a
president,
huge loss.
Became
Go be
fatigued
quiet.
very easily.
How you doing, brother?
He couldn't finish a sentence without taking a nap. Let's suppose the president, he was just physically in bad shape, mentally and physically. Mentally, he may or may not have, you're not a doctor, neurodegenerative disease, but physically you can see you could bake a Thanksgiving turkey in the time it takes him to walk across the stage. Do you think, as a member of his staff, what do you think is your moral obligation to say, wait a minute, the president?
The last night with the 10, the 25th Amendment is the original Constitution. Are you telling me that there is a King James version of the Constitution like the Bible? You fucking tard.
President can't do the job anymore. I know you're loyal folks. You believe in your president, this president, whichever president. I'm picking out.
I say people like us actually
you're
fucking
loyal,
run.
You want to be a good staffer, but you also have a moral obligation. How do you reach that decision, Professor?
But I'd be scared of what we create with that kind of.
Senator, I think the first thing you would have to do in a situation like that,
I'd be afraid of my own
exercise
damn
your
self.
own judgment. How serious is this problem? Because everybody has moments when they lose focus. It happens.
What up, Lenny?
If somebody thinks this is a really serious problem, I think the first thing to do is the most difficult, which is to say to the president, because the 25th Amendment also provides that the president can say, I'm unable to exercise the powers and
We'll
duties of my
finish
office.
up with Kennedy here.
It's really difficult, but I think it should
Look, trust me, I can. And it's clear to you that he has neurodegenerative disease and he can't. What do? Do you have a moral obligation as a staff member to go to the American people and say, we've got a problem here, it may cost me my career?
Senator, I think at that point you have an obligation to talk to the vice president, who is in charge of the Section 4 process under the 25th Amendment.
What about you, Mr. Wald? You have a moral obligation. I understand you want it to go away, you want to work it out with him, but you can't. When does the
president
staffer have
was
a moral
fucking
obligation
drunk
to
the whole
stand up
time.
and say he can't be president anymore, she can't be?
Well, Senator, the 25th Amendment only works if individual staffers or officers of the United States exercise that kind of moral judgment.
That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, so, I think always, as the professor said, the presidency is an enormous burden, so it would be not one instance, it would have to be several instances of failure to exercise judgment.
How do you make that decision? You're the staffer, I get it.
Yeah, well, I think it begins with prayer, of course, but after that, I think it's conversation with other staffers, and if you're unable to confront the president or to raise the issue with the vice president, you should resign.
What about you, Mr. Spicer? Do you stand up and do it and tell the truth and run, or do you have a greater obligation to your boss?
Well, luckily, I didn't have that problem. But I would say that you have a moral obligation as an American, as a citizen, as a human being. If the leader of the free world cannot conduct themselves to make the decisions that are
Why
critical
does
to
this
this country, to the world,
motherfucker's
you
head look
absolutely
like?
have a moral.
Why does this motherfucker's head look like he's been put in a vice? Look at that. His nose doesn't even breach his cheekbone in this angle. This looks like some shoddy ass something somebody drew in some kind of court hearing shit, you know?
He's getting old.
There is no fucking nose with this dude, but hey.
Obligation to follow the chain of command, and if they don't act, then you must.
Do
He's
either
got
of you
it,
gentlemen
though.
disagree with that?
I'm not gonna lie, he's got it.
Professor?
Senator, I think acting means talking to the people who have the responsibility or in a position under the Constitution to do something.
You don't
with the
agree with
situation.
Mr. Spicer?
Senator, I'm not sure exactly what he has in mind, other than talking to the people who can make
I'm
a
just
decision.
trying to ask, you've all been staffers. Suppose you go to everybody you're supposed to go to, and they all say, my advice to you is to shut up. Do you have a moral obligation as a staffer to say, look, this person can't be president of the United States. It isn't policy. He physically can't do it.
Senator Kennedy, it's not a question of whether a staffer has that obligation. It's whether you as an American have that obligation, and I think each and every one of us does.
Yeah, but you can see it. An American can't. Professor, what do you think?
He was drawn
Senator,
by
I
Mike
think there's
Judge.
situations under which someone in that position should speak publicly, but I also think that the views of a single individual who is not the person who is constitutionally responsible for taking measures should be considered by the public as just the views of of one individual who has some information about the subject.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and throw you this link if you want to finish it up. We are 1 hour and 46. You know what? Fuck it. Let's finish. Let's finish. We got 20 minutes left. Power through.
Actually, the
You can take off whenever you
fact
need
that
to,
this is in the
David.
past kind of
I'm
reminds me of that
powering
scene
through.
in Lion King where Rafiki, the android, hit Simba on the head and said, "Doesn't matter, it's in the past." I hear, I could see where my Democrat colleagues would like to
Love
use
you
that
too,
argument,
Lenny.
but it mattered. And for me, I met President Biden as Vice President Biden when I was sworn in. He literally sworn me in 2015, and I've had several interactions with him over the years. There's no question that there was a significant degradation in his cognitive abilities. Probably the last time I spent much time with him was at a NATO summit. But I do think there are a lot of legitimate questions to be asked about who may have been tending the store, and I believe we should get to the bottom of it. But I want to look to the future. And back when this discussion was going on, I was suggesting the 25th Amendment. We know what the 25th Amendment does. Professor, I'm kind of curious about why, and with due respect to my colleague from Louisiana, this is a hell of a burden to place on a staff. Mr. Spicer, you've been in the White House. Can you imagine how heavy that would be and how unlikely it would be for you to be successful as an individual staff member? But Professor Harrison, I'm thinking more along the lines of what you see in boardrooms all the time about annual evaluations of the CEO or board members. What about the concept of something short of triggering the 25th Amendment, where the cabinet members, hand-selected members of the president, confirmed by the Senate, maybe on an annual basis, have to have an attestation that based on their work with the President of the United States, that he is mentally capable, fit, and the same way that we have boards make those decisions about board directors and CEOs. What would be wrong with some sort of a report or attestation to Congress from the cabinet member saying this man or woman is good to go, and it would be it would be perjury to Congress if they ended up covering up and history proved that. What's wrong with something like that as we're looking forward?
Senator, I would be, and maybe I am sort of being unduly protective of the independence of the other two branches, but
that's sort of why I want to leave it in the. That's why all I want is the cabinet to truthfully attest to the fact that their boss is of sound mind and body, and unless they lie, it's not an issue.
Senator,
it's an Article 2 responsibility to report to Congress like so many other things. What's wrong with that?
I think it would be a very good idea for the president to create a process like that. My concern is the thought of Congress making such a process mandatory, especially in light.
Well, I'm trying to figure out the consequence, because arguably, I find it hard to believe that there were members of the cabinet that didn't go, you know what, we love this guy, he appointed us to this position, but he's missing a step. And they're refusing to. This is not about any one person. This country, this is about 340 million people in this country. No one of us should think that we should somehow be given a break if we're missing a step. So all I'm saying is you got to report honestly to Congress that the President of the United States, in your opinion, is absolutely demonstrated sound mind and body. It's just
Lux Knight with the dono. Watch Davey has to say goodnight. The troll bag bum shows up again.
Oh, goddamn. See, I'm telling you, I might have matched my insult match. That might be fun to sit down and just throw insults back and forth to each other all goddamn night like it's something to do. That might be fun.
Different than us having them before the committee and say, is the boss okay? And if they lied, they'd be perjuring themselves. So what's the difference between that and some sort of a pro forma report that I'd be willing to subject the current president to, and then we'd have it for all the future presidents? What would be wrong with that?
Senator, again, I think the problem there is the Constitution has created a process for that, and that's the 25th Amendment, and that suggests that Congress can't create another process. Now, I do think that the point you're making today is part of a political process that might lead presidents to create a system like that on their own, which might enhance the people's confidence.
About to run out of time. Mr. Spicer, what do you think?
Senator,
The president normally goes under a routine physical every year. In the case of President Biden, it was Dr. O'Connor who affirmatively stated his fitness
That's
for
the
office.
point, RP.
The doctor is probably the most competent person to attest to the president's fitness for office. The doctor should be held accountable for stating in the affirmative that President Biden was fit for office.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Biden administration may go down in history as the most brazen constitutional fraud in American history. A Potemkin presidency fronted by a failing puppet with staffers behind the scenes pulling the strings. This is not political hyperbole. The American people saw it with their own eyes during the June 2024 debate. Numerous times, Biden stood frozen behind the podium.
I'm going to say this. After that Tucker Carlson interview with him, goddamn, dude. I think you were wolf in sheep's clothing.
Mouth agape,
Gotta
eyes
pee.
frozen and unblinking. When he did speak, his words were confused and disjointed. I said that night, this is the most consequential presidential debate in history because it will result in one of the two candidates being removed from the ballot. That was exactly right. And following that debate, the Democrats recognized the collapse. They pulled out their knives and took out President Biden like Caesar on the Ides of March. For all of their strutting about, protesting that they support democracy. Not a one of them gave a damn about democracy when they pulled Biden off the ballot and dropped Kamala Harris in without a single Democrat primary voter voting for him. And you know what? Not a single Democrat is here today because not a single one of them gives a damn about the fact that they lied to the American people for 4 years. They knew. Every one of them knew that Joe Biden was mentally not competent to do the job. The White House press secretary, she knew when she stood in front of the American people and lied over and over and over again. And they're not here because they can't defend themselves. It wasn't a surprise. For 4 years, the White House hid President Biden from Republican senators. Would not let him meet with us. He served 40 years in this body. We all know him.
The last night with the 10. Even if it, I'm down. Even if you do have a protected conversation, I'm down with the quick shots fired. All fun and games. That's what I'm talking about. We just have a conversation, just take little rib shots here and there. I think it'd be fun as fuck, brother.
And they deliberately lied. And by the way, Jake Tapper had a bombshell book exposing the incredible scandal that Biden's mental decline was covered up by Jake Tapper. There's a Yiddish word, chutzpah. And that truly is chutzpah. How dare we lie and cover up what we all knew? Now, I have been asked literally 1,000 times by Texans, who was running the country? And I'm going to give you the most terrifying answer. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And not a single Democrat here cares. The most telling proof of Biden's decline came with the
Ted
signature
Cruz
of the president.
doesn't know
Symbol of
what he
executive
votes
authority
for.
that was outsourced to a machine. Mr. Wold, you're a lawyer who served in the White House counsel's office. You understand the gravity of presidential action. Does the president's signature carry legal and constitutional weight under Article 2?
Yes.
Is the act of signing an executive order or signing a law or granting a pardon a delegable duty of the president?
So in that opinion in 2005 from OLC, they said essentially that an auto pen could be used by a subordinate, but the president's determination as to sign the document can never be delegated.
Can that authority be transferred to a staffer or a machine without the president's explicit authorization?
Never.
And if you look at the statistics are stunning. In 2021, President Biden issued 78 executive orders. None were signed with an auto pen. That first year of the presidency, Biden, I suppose, was relatively lucid, and 78 executive orders he signed by hand. The second year, however, we see the auto pen emerge. The first auto pen executive order was issued on July 15th, 2022. After that day, 100% of the executive orders issued in 2022 were signed by an auto pen. In 2023, Biden issued 24 executive orders. 16 were auto penned. In 2024, Biden issued 19. 14 were auto penned. In 2025, Biden issued 14 executive orders. Every single one was auto penned. Mr. Wald, let me ask you as a legal matter, if there's a law that's passed both houses of Congress and it goes to the White House, and a staffer auto pens signing that law.
I'll admit, He's badass with presentation. But he's not so good with any real pushback. As the Tucker Carlson interview actually showed.
Mm-hmm.
He's not good with any real pushback in a conversation like we're having right now. Or I'd just be like, hold up. Now, if you're talking about this, where's your stance on this then?
He's not good with follow-up questions. Like, you ask him a question, he'll answer it. But the follow-up question, he just goes,
Well, that's because all his career, he's never had that. He's commanded the room. He's commanded the field.
But
and if you tried to push back, he'd shut you down.
But 80% of them are like that. 80% of them are like that.
That's why I shout out the ones that I'm just like, look, motherfuckers are shooting from the hip. This ain't prepared shit. A lot of the motherfuckers that I point out in our government, I can tell you 100%, they're not fucking around. They're there for a reason. They wanted it, they got it, and it's not to enrich themselves. But Cruz here, I don't know, man. After that Carlson interview, there was no reason for him to go nuclear like he did. No fucking reason. However,
Without the president's authorization, is that law legally passed and signed into law?
No.
If an executive order is issued and a staffer auto-pens it without the president's authorization, is that executive order legally binding?
No.
And if a pardon is issued from the President of the United States and a staffer auto-pens it without the President's authorization, is that pardon legally binding?
No.
Under the Biden White House, the ceremonial song, Hail to the Chief, was effectively replaced with Hail to the Pen. And it was an outright assault on democracy. And every reporter covering this ought to ask, why doesn't a Democrat care? We heard about the moral responsibilities of a staffer. How about an elected senator who knows damn well that if we get into a war and Iran is preparing to fire a nuclear weapon at the United States, that the commander-in-chief is busy playing with his jello and is not competent to defend ourselves, and every member of the cabinet, the chief of staff, the press secretary, and the members of Congress who lied about this on a daily basis with the press's complicity, they are all responsible for subverting democracy.
Senator Cornyn.
Deluxe with the dono. I'd unload the silos, not necessarily at Rich, but 100% with Rich. He isn't wrong. He says we'd have one hell of a party with regards to pushing the lines being a dickhole.
I mean, that might be the first strike we ever get on YouTube with this channel. But it'd be worth it. No, but I mean, with Cruz here, especially with that Carlson interview, he was just actually sitting there just like, hey, hold on, because there's this, and Ted Cruz went fucking ballistic off of nothing. And then the whole shit blew up with the Carlson Cruz interview. Taking this into account, because the Carlson Cruz interview had to have been before then. I'm telling you, he ain't got shit if he ain't commanding that fucking room. I'm looking cross-eyed at Cruz right now.
Professor Harrison, we've talked about the mechanics of the 25th Amendment whereby an incapacitated president would be removed. But it strikes me that ultimately it happened, albeit not before the end of President Biden's full term. What we saw happen after the disastrous debate in the summer of 2024 is basically an exercise of the powers of the 25th Amendment by the political elites in the Democratic Party to get President Biden not to run again and to substitute Kamala Harris for him as the Democratic nominee for president. So, Mr. Spicer, maybe the mechanics were a little bit different. Maybe the timing was not the same, but doesn't that demonstrate the capacity of the leadership of the Democratic Party, of the Biden family, of the senior staff, and the president's
I want y'all to understand this is
administration
still at
to be able to
1.25
convince the
speed.
president that he no longer was capable of serving and needed to step down?
Senator, the left and the friends in the media like to throw around terms like threats to democracy, constitutional crisis. And if we don't have confidence in the leader of the free world making decisions, that truly is the definition of a constitutional crisis and a threat to democracy. So for all these folks to stand up here and use those phrases over and over again and then not have the desire to show up, to understand what's happening, to stand up at the time, as we discussed earlier, whether it was a staffer or a cabinet member, to literally avoid going to the Oval Office. And in the case of the media, to avoid the questions that were so clearly obvious to the rest of America, shows that they were more concerned with power and preserving that power and an agenda than they were at really caring about the Constitution and democracy.
I agree that that is the clear conclusion. And obviously they decided to do it only at such a time as that ability to wield power was coming to an end. If, in fact, President Biden had remained the nominee of the Democratic Party and then ran against and lost to President Trump, these folks would be out of luck and out of power. So they decided to act under that circumstance.
Senator, you look at a lot of these decisions, and it was pretty clear that there was a handful of folks at the top of the Biden administration and Biden White House that had been around him for decades, where all of that information funneled. So I mentioned before, there are approximately 25 senior White House staffers that have the rank of assistant to the president. Those are the highest White House staffers. I would bet that only a handful of them ever interacted with President Biden on a daily basis. The rest of them had their communications funneled through other people. If the press secretary, the communications director, whose job it is to speak on behalf of the principal in lieu of them being able to talk or communicate, don't have access to those individuals at the senior most level, then what good are they? And I would argue that while many times we heard people in the press and on the left accuse the Trump White House of quote unquote lying, for them to go out there and talk about the president's stance on issues, what President Biden thought or didn't think on a personnel issue, a policy issue, when in fact they had never spoken to him, is in fact the epitome of lying.
One of the most consequential actions
100%.
or inactions of the Biden presidency during 4 years was his failures to secure our southern border and to deal with illegal immigration. I have in my hand examples of the Biden immigration proclamations and executive orders, and there are a lot of them, as you know. They also include things like granting temporary protected status to large populations of immigrants, particularly from countries in Central America, rescinding Trump administration policies when it came to enforcing our laws at the border, granting parole, which is essentially a permission slip to enter the country in a way that would otherwise
Garrett
be
Cruz
illegal.
is better than Corbin.
And
I'll
Mr.
admit
Chairman, I'd
that.
ask unanimous consent that this document be made part of the record as an example of the sort of consequential border security and immigration related measures that President Biden purported to sign.
Without objection. Mr. Wald, I do want to follow up on a couple of things with you and Mr. Harrison and also Mr. Spicer.
We're almost done.
Under the presidential
What'd you say?
No, I said, and he's gone.
Of course.
Powers Act,
We're almost done.
we could have a special access request, correct, to the archivist to find out what assent was actually given by Joe Biden on the auto pen. Is that your understanding?
If they kept records,
Right.
yes.
Right. Well, I think that will be something we will be pursuing. Professor Harrison, I wanted to ask you, sort of on the Article 1 branch's role, and I think I understand your concern when you say the president could do something. You're dealing with sort of a separation of powers issue is sort of what I'm reading into that. So the Article 1 branch can impeach for high crimes and misdemeanors. Should the Constitution be amended, in your view, to deal with this incapacitation? So impeachment would be a vehicle beyond just the 25th Amendment, but impeachment would be a vehicle to deal with these issues.
Senator, there's a long-standing question about whether impeachment is appropriate for inability. There's been questions right at the beginning of the Republic about a couple of judges who were in very poor shape, not that they'd committed crimes, they were impeached and removed, and there were doubts as to whether impeachment was appropriate for that because their problem was age and inability. So you're absolutely right that there's a doubt right now whether the impeachment process, and it goes back a long, long way, whether the impeachment process is a way of dealing with inability as opposed to misconduct. It's clearly primarily directed at misconduct. And I think that if members of Congress are thinking about an additional constitutional amendment, and maybe they should be, they should think both about adapting the impeachment process to inability, which, as I say, right now it's not clear it's properly used in those situations, or creating yet some other political process to deal with presidential inability if lawmakers think that the political process that's in sections 3 and 4 of the 25th Amendment is inadequate. The last thing I'll say, just as a policy matter, and this is not speaking on a legal question, I do think it's important that any decision about presidential inability remain something that's decided by politically accountable people, that is treated as a political decision. It can't just be a technocratic decision.
Mr. Spicer, you've criticized the corporate media and legacy media.
Hold up. I think that was a sleeper question.
What do you mean?
Okay, so this auto pen turns out, right? He didn't do it. All that shit gets overturned. But it was by the president's orders. But it really wasn't. We all know that. I want to roll that question back. I'm sorry, I got to do it.
The Article 1 branch's role, and I think I understand your concern when you say the president could do something.
Let me
dealing with
track
sort of separation
this.
of powers issue is sort of what I'm reading into that. So the Article 1 branch can impeach for high crimes and misdemeanors.
Right.
Should the Constitution be amended, in your view, to deal with this incapacitation? So impeachment would be a vehicle beyond just the 25th Amendment, but impeachment would be a vehicle to deal with these issues.
I'll track it back after this. Impeachment is high crimes and misdemeanors, right? You need to impeach a sitting president to bring them up on charges, right?
Yeah.
Now, we all know Biden's going to be dead beforehand. But to bring him up on charges for all of that, as a sitting president of the United States, would you not have to impeach him?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a moot point. The motherfucker's going to be dead before anything comes up. We all know that.
Spuds with the dono, it was the T1000 auto pen.
Yeah. That's a sleeper fucking question. And if I picked up on that, you know they did.
Senator, there's a long-standing question about whether impeachment is appropriate for inability. There's been questions right at the beginning of the Republic about.
Oh yeah, I was gonna pass this on after this point.
Mr. Spicer, you've criticized the corporate media and legacy media folks for sort of lying down here or being complicit because of their, whether it's Trump derangement syndrome or whatever the reason was. Who specifically do you think gets a gold star for lying most profusely and just sort of continuing to cover this up over the years?
Sir, that would be like a photo finish. There'd be a lot that would probably right there at first place. They're all culpable. I mean, I read some of the headlines to the committee earlier. The Washington Post, CNN, NBC, where they, without evidence, to use their phrase, went after President Trump's physical and mental acuity, and yet failed to ask similar questions of the White House press office publicly. They failed to cover the stories. I don't think that there's a winner. I think they're all losers.
Thank you. And then we'll sort of wrap up here with Professor Harrison and Mr. Wold. So moving forward, we mentioned maybe possibly amending the Constitution or further exploring whether incapacitation is an impeachable, if impeachment's a remedy. What other, in your experience, what other things moving forward could be done to make sure that this scenario that we saw play out over the last 4 years never happens again?
Senator, I think the most important thing that can be done is something you're doing right now, which is draw public attention to this problem, and so give presidents an incentive to take steps that will reassure the people that they are sound and able to perform their functions.
Bowtie is anxious as fuck.
I would agree with the professor and just add that there should be some accountability for the staffers and the officers of the United States who acted to conceal and to cover up the president's incapacity from the American people. One other issue that's tied up in sort of this bundle of incapacity, impeachment, is also succession. And that's something so many have written about extensively over the years. We are very blessed that we have never had a double vacancy with the president and the vice president, either because of terror attack or misconduct. That's something that legal scholars have said for many decades, that Congress really has to work on that. And I would add, yes, in fact, that's something you all should take up with some seriousness.
May I say spontaneously, yes, please?
Okay. Well, I want to thank the witnesses for your testimony here today. Written questions for them may be submitted for the record until June 26th at 5 p.m. And with that, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you.
They're never going to get, even if they bring people in, they're never going to be able to, they don't have the evidence. They don't have enough evidence to convict anybody of anything. Unfortunately. They got no proof. There is no proof. The only proof is that the cognitive thing, and they're hiding it, but they can just deny it. And the way they did. The way they did. There is no proof. There would be no substantial evidence that says that they knew.
I don't give a fuck.
But it's just a waste of taxpayer money and time.
It is. I don't give a fuck though. I really don't.
It's a waste of taxpayer time and money because nothing's going to end up happening. It doesn't matter how many people you bring in. Doesn't mean how many people you subpoena and put in front of that in front of the Senate and the or Congress. And nothing's going to happen. It's just going to be a waste of time and money. What needs to happen is they need to look into if they can go back and since it wasn't him signing it, if they can
if they can, if that works through with the whole thing, that it wasn't Joe Biden signing it.
Yeah.
You
And then they
understand how much has to be reversed, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I think they have more proof of that than they have of people knowing that this was going on. Because you could just, once again, they'll bring them, and I had no idea.
There
I had
ain't
no
no
idea.
goddamn way. There ain't no motherfucking way you're gonna tell me Karine Jean-Pierre, who stayed by his fucking side every time this motherfucker moved any goddamn where, didn't know this shit. You're
Prove
gonna tell me Mayorkas didn't know this shit.
Prove it.
Prove it?
That's the thing. You
Straight
can't
up
prove it.
lies from the media? You got a
can't
point.
Prove it. You have more proof that stuff was signed with an auto pen, and all that stuff can probably be taken away. You have more of a chance of getting that shit taken away.
But there is nothing to say that actual Joe Biden authorized the auto pen to be used in his name.
Yeah.
So there's your proof. At least for auto pen.
Yeah. That's what I mean. You have more of a chance of getting shit reversed because of the use of the auto pen than you have of people of actually convicting people of knowing.
Then again,
that
there's Glenn, culpable or incapable. Either way, complicit. There ain't no way you can run that for 4 fucking years and not see any of that shit. There ain't no fucking way in hell you're gonna sit there and tell me that Karine Jean-Pierre, the goddamn Netflix version of Little Orphan Annie,
bro,
and all the time she spent, did not question, is this motherfucker capable? Because then that means Joe Biden is the fucking king of retard island because he can tie his own shoes.
Why didn't they bring him in front of a judge for the documents case?
Because he was mentally unfit to stand trial.
So you think they're going to bring him back for this? You think they're going to bring anybody back for this? I know what you want. I know what I want. I want them hung up by their Buster Browns. But Washington is full of fucking liars and scumbags. And there's nothing that's going to happen if you bring these people in and question them. They're going to circumvent every single fucking question. You're going to have the Democrats rah-rahing them. You're going to have the Republicans trying to get them. And they're just going to be like, I can't recall. I can't recall. I don't think. I don't know. I never saw anything. Joe Biden was sharp as a tack when I saw him. So it's not worth it.
For Joe Biden? No.
Biden, no.
To reverse the shit that he's done? Maybe. I'm going to say very heavily, hell yes.
Yeah. Like I said, go after the shit that was done with an auto pen. Get the people who knew about the auto pen. That's who you get.
There you go.
You get the people who were in charge of the auto pen, who knew about the auto pen.
And you charge him with the highest fucking crime you could ever do. You levied war against the people.
Yeah.
Because you circumvented every bit of this country to install your own fucking government.
All right. It's almost 10:30.
Yeah, I know. We need to go. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Carolyn.
I appreciate every single one of you that hang on for the end of this, but
I've seen FJB. Deluxe with the dono. Oh my, it's conspiracy time, Davey. Having dealt with cancer in my own family, there is a very high 95% chance his cancer wasn't affecting him less than 6 months to a year of the election and stage 4 now. Yeah. Motherfucker's gonna go soon. Motherfucker's gonna go soon.
That was all planned.
And, because he's not going to get the cocktail that he was getting while he was president. He's not going to get, a presidential cocktail.
That was all planned. And his entire fucking family ran shit behind the fucking scenes.
Yep.
They dictated what shit went on. Yep. And you can't pin them to any of that shit. Except for this auto pen. Because the question now stands, who authorized what? If Biden didn't do it, who authorized what?
And what signature do you have that said that authorized him? Authorized? Is there a signature or a statement or a document stating the use of the auto pen?
No. And that is the problem.
Yeah. So there you go.
But who was it that said January 6th committee, all you motherfuckers? Pardon. Who was it that gave aid and comfort to those who levied war against you? Psychological? Electoral? However the fuck you want to play that out. Who was it that levied war against you? Because it damn sure wasn't Joe Biden.
It was Hunter.
I don't even think the Biden family was involved until Joe got to running shit. And again, I think you're right on that. I don't think the Biden family was involved until Joe was running shit. Which came, what, a year and a half, 2 years? Maybe midway through?
No. I think it was from the beginning. I think it's been since the beginning.
Maybe.
I think it because she was with him in almost every interview. She was right there.
Your government ran a shadow of fucking government right there in front of your goddamn face. Your government tried to pull the polio thing. You know, how one of our presidents was stricken with polio and paralyzed from the waist down, and they hid that shit from you. Back then, they could do it. Now, ain't no goddamn way.
All right, well, we'll see you tomorrow.
Your government created its own shadow government behind the scenes. They told you on the House fucking floor. That's when the word treason really kicked up with this show. That's when we talked to Sweeney about it.
Deluxe Night with Dono actually have some sympathy for Joe, his wife, son, and everyone else. You are the most desperate fucking people on the planet.
Despicable people on the fucking planet.
Yeah. For that parade. Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate the fuck out of every single one of you that hang on there tonight. But it is a Senate thing. It is a hearing thing. We had to do it on both sides. I appreciate the fuck out of you. Maybe we might actually pick up on some shit tomorrow, but that was actually illuminating.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have a good night, and we'll
Love
see you
y'all.
again soon.
Comes a president. We can't start our own little business
I have a
here.
dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I'll make mistakes, but mistakes make you strong. Let's break it down for a minute. I want the crown, I'm gon' get it. You hear me loud, man, I'm winning. Yeah, Charlie Sheen will be grinning. These ladies know that I'm sinning, and this is just the beginning. I'm closing in the night inning. There ain't no point in resisting. Living life like a dream, live it right, that's the thing. Every night got a team, I've been tied to the scene. Out on stage, here I'm screaming, okay, it's a dream. And I pray as a team, one day it'll be me. If I want it, then I'll get it. Head down, don't regret it. Push myself to the limit. If I play it, then I win it. I'm just saying, I'm just living for today. For a minute, I don't stay, I just visit. Have no shame, I admit it. Looking on me to see if I succeed, to see if I believe. They're looking up to me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.